Chapter 218. The people of Spirit Beast sect were furious, cursing and swearing at Gu Qing Shan, as if the truth of the matter has already been confirmed, that Gu Qing Shan was the murderer. Ning Yuechan quickly glanced at the spirit beasts, then at Gu Qing Shan. Gu Qing Shan shook her head. Ning Yuechan could only endure it. Gu Qing Shan looked at the people of Spirit Beast sect, then at Wu Xing, one who didn't even try to hide his smirk, and sighed. I really have to say, you guys really know how to pick a time. As he spoke, his tone carried a bit of helplessness. Ning Yuechan glanced at him, couldn't hold it in anymore, and stood up. Soul reading. I'm also an expert at it. Let me do it. You can't. Wu Xing spoke. You're clearly biased towards him. This general won't allow you to soul reading. Ning Yuechan looked at him, then casually spoke. General Wu, I know you're a disciple of Blue Cloud sect, and I know you're one of the 3 Ding Yuan generals, 1 rank higher than me. But if you act like this after the battle, I'll definitely ask you to spar with me. Life and death will be up to the heavens. With Ning Yuechan's personality, to say something like that means he's really angry. Don't be like that. I agree to soul reading. Gu Qing Shan pulled Ning Yuechan back and spoke. But I need an impartial person. I can't let Spirit Beast Sect's elder do it. The enforcer cultivators all nodded in agreement. This is natural. If they won't let Ning Yuechan do it, then they definitely won't let Spirit Beast Sect's elder do it either. Who are you looking for? Spirit Beast Sect's elder scoffed and asked. My Shifu, Gu Qing Shan answered. Ning Yuechan's anger subsided by half. This guy is still as lazy as ever. Spirit Beast Sect's elder boss smiled. Your Shifu? If he's your Shifu, he'll definitely protect you. How would you gain the general's trust? As soon as he said so, he noticed that everyone outside of Spirit Beast Sect was looking at him sympathetically. No one in the cultivation world would dare to doubt my Shifu's words. Am I right, General Wu? Gu Qing Shan asked. Wu Xing went silent for a bit, then nodded. He knows what he's doing. No matter how unwilling he is, he doesn't dare to take a step forward. If Gu Qing Shan was truly frightened and ended up having his soul searched, it would only be because Gu Qing Shan was too weak. After everything was said and done, everything was according to military rules. Gu Qing Shan was also willing. No one was responsible. Even by Hua Fairy can only blame her own disciple for being too weak. But if Qing Shan doesn't get Shifu and Flower Fairy is right and insists that Fairy doesn't sec 100 flowers, Fairy doesn't sec Fairy is Gu, then, as he Shan can shun. Not to mention Wu Xing one. Even if Xianyuan Tianzuan was here, he wouldn't dare to touch a single hair on Gu Qing Shan's head. Otherwise, if 100 Flowers Fairy gets angry, she doesn't care what kind of general you are. She'll just take your life. Tell me, who's your Shifu? The Spirit Beast Sect elder noticed something wasn't right and asked. Ning Yuechan suddenly laughed, couldn't help but say, by Flower Fairy. The Spirit Beast Sect elder's expression changed. He looked at the guards in the tent, only to find they were all from Blue Cloud's Pass. Being stared at by him, some lowered their heads, some avoided his gaze, while others coldly smirked at him. The Spirit Beast Sect elder glared at Wu Xing one. His expression completely darkened. You tricked me, he said to Wu Xing one. No wonder you put us in a secluded corner. No wonder you told me that no matter which sect disciple we are, they'll stick up for us. The Spirit Beast Sect elder spoke in a low voice. Bullshit! Wu Xing slammed the table and stood up, angrily shouting. You're the one who wants to sue him for killing your sect's disciples. He spoke very seriously. This general is the Ding Yuan general. Under the Saint Realm, the entire Cultivation Alliance has to listen to my orders. You dare slander this general? But you never told me that his Shifu is by Flower Fairy. The Spirit Beast Sect elder angrily shouted. Wu Xing couldn't keep his face any longer, shouting, You're an elder of Spirit Beast Sect. You don't even know that, and you're still trying to sue me, scram. Get the hell out of here. The Spirit Beast Sect elder endured for a while, then suddenly turned around and clasped his fist at Gu Qing Shan. We were deceived by others. If we've offended you, we hope you can forgive us. Gu Qing Shan smiled and replied, It's fine, he wasn't deceiving you. He was deceiving me. The elder of the Spirit Beast Sect stared at him in surprise. seeing how calm he was and how he did not feel any anger or resentment towards them. He felt a different emotion in his heart. The Spirit Beast Sect elder nodded to him, then brought the rest of Spirit Beast Sect away. But Li Chu-chen's brother was still unwilling. He's relying on his Shifu. That's why he didn't admit to his crimes. He muttered in a low voice, but was quickly dragged away by someone. What a farce! Gu Qing-shan, you've been wronged, Wu Xingwen sighed, faking it. Gu Qing-shan smiled, then replied, I owe it to you, sir. He looked at Wu Xingwen, and Wu Xingwen looked back at him. Gu Qing-shan suddenly asked, General Wu, your Blue Clouds Pass first brother? That's me, Wu Xingwen answered. A sect's first disciple is usually responsible for maintaining the sect's reputation, leading by example and educating the other disciples. Gu Qing-shan nodded, saying, Now I know why Li Chong'an is like that. How dare you? Do you really think I won't punish you for slandering this general? Wu Xingwen couldn't keep up his act and clenched his fist. You can try. Let's see if your Shifu will protect you a bit more, or if my Shifu will directly take your life, Gu Qing-shan said. Wu Xingwen closed his mouth, gritting his teeth. The two of them didn't say anything else. Both of them understood that this time's grudge has been sown. Gu Qing-shan turned around to leave. Wu Xingwen was looking at Gu Qing-shan from behind. His eyes were a bit different. He was thinking about the truth of the matter. Because under normal circumstances, spirit beasts aren't known to lie. Since Gu Qing-shan pulled by Hua Sein out, no one else dared to mention the soul reading again. But this also means that the truth is most likely that Gu Qing-shan really did harm Li Chu-chen. But now that things have reached this point, no one dares to investigate Gu Qing-shan. Even if it's military law, they can't just let it fall on by Hua Sein's disciple. If that's the truth, and they've already torn all pretenses, first brother? A disciple silently came up and asked, since spirit beasts sex people and spirit beasts have already confirmed it, even if the saint asks later, they'll be there to take the blame. We don't need to be afraid. Saying so, Wu Xingwen thought for a bit, then whispered something to the other disciples. A few Jade Cloud sect disciples tacitly understood and left. Afternoon. Gu Qing-shan's group went to see the female cultivators of Heaven's Limit sect. When he came out from the female cultivators' resting area, Gu Qing-shan suddenly noticed that the cultivators around him were looking at him strangely. Is it him? It's him, shameless bastard, despicable, using public office for personal revenge. Everyone was whispering among themselves, not minding that he heard them. And many Qing Yun sect cultivators were walking around the camp, dragging people everywhere, telling the things that happened the night before yesterday, adding oil and vinegar to the story to the people around them. Lung Tianxing couldn't stand it anymore and wanted to stop them, but was stopped by Gu Qing-shan. It's fine. If you go, it'll only make things worse, he said. Those spirit beasts are loyal to their master, but they shouldn't have used such a method to slander you. Lung Tianxing still didn't know what happened inside. Gu Qing-shan and Ning Yuechan exchanged glances but didn't say anything. By nightfall, the entire camp already knew what happened during the day. Bai Hua Sein's disciple Gu Qing-shan bullied a spirit beast sect disciple during a mission, then used that as an excuse to kill him. Chapter 219. Normally speaking, because spirit beasts and cultivators have been together for a long time, they'll develop a special connection between them. So the cultivation world considers spirit beasts to be a cultivator's most loyal companions. Not to mention, these spirit beasts only just lost their master, yet they still dare to expose the saint's disciple, a testament to their loyalty and sincerity. Blue Cloud's Pass's disciples ran all over the camp, whispering to each other. But spirit beast sects cultivators silently watched this and wisely kept their mouths shut. They've already understood that they've become the sacrificial pawns in the fight between the saint's disciples. To protect themselves, they can't say anything else at this point. But the spirit beasts still stayed in the camp. Ding Yuan, General Wu Xing, didn't allow spirit beast sect to take them back, saying that they'll be kept for further investigation. Because of that, the majority of the cultivators couldn't help but believe this. Things were quietly and slowly fermenting. Quite a few female cultivators silently took out some pills and spirit food, giving them to the spirit beasts. They were using this silent gesture to show their stance. Quite a few cultivators coldly stared at Gu Shan, their eyes carrying silent contempt and disdain. Umph. Ning Yuechan has never been looked down on like this before, so she gritted her teeth, wanting to say something. Don't get too worked up. It's not like they're doing this to you. Gu Shan pulled her back. They can't do this to you either. It's not fair, Ning Yuechan casually said. What fairness? Gu Shan replied. The only thing we need to do right now is to wait patiently, knight. Several armies have arrived. The decisive battle is about to begin. Humanity's 3 Ding Yuan generals have gathered. Ding Yuan General Gongsun Ji, Ding Yuan General Wu Xingwen, Ding Yuan General Ming Hui. Wu Xingwen is Blue Cloud's Pass's eldest brother. Ming Hui is Spirit Leaf Temple's head disciple. Both of them are strong cultivators, as well as being disciples of Xianyuan Tianzuan and the Great Monk of Sorrow, so of course they're respected by everyone. Gongsun Ji, on the other hand, was a truly busy man. With his profound knowledge of arrays, he had participated in many of the major battles that the human race had won. As one of the 3 Ding Yuan generals, everyone respected him. For some unknown reason, what happened during the day quickly spread to all the armies. Even Gongsun Ji and Minghui Monk knew a thing or two about it. Gongsun Ji frowned and thought for a moment before shaking his head. Monk Ming Hui chanted Amit Ba and did not say anything else. Although there were people who died unjustly at the hands of a sage's disciple, cultivators still had to do what they had to do. Only in the Spirit Beast sect, there were some unusual movements. How did he provoke the 100-flower sect's Sword 15? An elder asked in a low voice. He was tricked by Wu Xing when the first elder sighed. The report he showed me didn't have by Hua Sect's Gu Shan's name on it. Seeing everyone's worried expressions, he gritted his teeth. If we keep our mouths shut right now, we'll be fine. If Bai Hua Saint asks, even if she has to search my soul, I'll have to explain everything clearly to protect the sect. But the spirit beasts, I don't know what's going on either. Could it really be? On the other side, the 3 Ding Yuan generals stood on 3 platforms, giving out orders and arranging personnel. Wu Xingwen stood on top of the platform, arranging the final battle. Spirit Beast Sects Wang Xiaowu. Here, responsible for scouting the front lines. Roger. Flowing Clouds Sects Zhang Jinwei. Here, responsible for attacking the left flank. Roger. Yao Guang Sects Leng Xiaowu. Here, Leng Tianxing answered. Responsible for attacking the front lines. Roger. Yu-Ji General Ning Yuechan. Here, Ning Yuechan answered. Responsible for commanding the front lines and the flanks. Roger. While Wu Xingwen was going on, he suddenly ordered, the remaining 5 sects split into 2 groups, responsible for transporting pills, formation plates, and other military supplies. Everyone looked over, only to see that the remaining sects were by Hua Sect, Spirit Flame Palace, Origin Sword Sect, Fu Xiao Mountain, and Cloudgate Sect. Spirit Flame Palace, Origin Sword Sect, Fu Xiao Mountain, and Cloudgate Sect each had a few dozen people. As soon as they heard the order, they split into 2 groups of 2. Only by Hua Sect's Gu Shan stood there by herself. What's going on? There's still one more person. Why aren't there any positions? Wu Xingwen purposely asked loudly. You said to split into 2 groups. We've already formed them. A cultivator from Spirit Flame Palace shrugged and answered. Why didn't you add him? Wu Xingwen asked. We don't want people who kill their comrades. A cultivator from Origin Sword Sect muttered in a low voice. Everyone went silent. All the cultivators coldly stared at Gu Shan. Even the groups, led by the other 2 generals, had quite a few cultivators looking over. Gu Shan just stood there without a single person around her. Ah, good. That's how it should be. This kind of person, pretending to be righteous, using his position to take revenge. Who cares about him? So what if he's a saint's disciple? If it weren't for the spirit beasts watching, we would have been fooled by him. Just stay away from him. Let him fend for himself. The whispers were getting louder and louder, slowly turning into a storm. Wu Xingwen had a faint smile on his face as he watched this scene. That's enough. Suddenly, a voice came. A cultivator jumped up from the other side of the platform. He stood next to Gu Shan, loudly shouting, What murderer? Did you see it with your own eyes? My ass. Ever since we arrived here today, over a dozen disciples of Blue Cloud's Pass have been running around, all of them saying bad things about our Baihua sect. Do you even have the ability to tell? You're framing us alive, Qin Shaolu shouted. He excitedly paced back and forth, then pointed a finger at Wu Xingwen. You're a Ding Yuan general, yet you're letting your fellow sect members spread rumors before the war, shaking the army's morale. Let me ask you, what are your intentions? How dare you? Wu Xingwen suddenly stood up. A mere Zhen Wei chaplain dares to criticize this general. Everyone knows about this. Everyone spread it, because justice is in the hearts of the people. What does this general have to do with this general? Qin Shaolu was furious, but then he saw that the other party was wearing a Ding Yuan general armor, spirit energy surging around his body, as well as a row of Blue Cloud's Pass cultivators coldly staring at him. Qin Shaolu turned around, grabbed Gu Qingshan's hand, and walked away. Junior brother, let's go, we're going to General Sun. We don't want to be bullied by him here, stop. Wu Xingwen shouted. What do you want now? We can't afford to mess with you, so why can't we just leave? Qin Shaolu said. Gu Qingshan is a Shao Qi chaplain under my command. How could she go with you? Wu Xingwen looked up and said. What did you say he was? A Shao Qi chaplain under my command? Humph. So you know he's a Shao Qi chaplain. I've never heard of any Shao Qi chaplain being sent to transport supplies. And you're still saying you're not against my Baihua sect? Wu Xingwen coldly laughed, saying, So what if he's transporting supplies? You're still a Zhen Wei chaplain. But look at yourself. Can you even go to battle? Can you even fight? Qin Shaolu was so angry his body was shaking, unable to say anything. Gu Qingshan pulled him in front of her, pressed his shoulder, and spoke very seriously. Senior brother, calm down and listen to me. Qin Shaolu looked at him, his eyes red and swollen. Gu Qingshan calmly and slowly spoke. You and I are both Baihua Saint's disciples. The path we walk is the path to heaven. As long as we believe we're not in the wrong, there's no need to care about what other people think, not to mention as a man walks the world, there's bound to be a bit of wind and rain, a bit of mockery. That's nothing out of the ordinary. Chapter 2:20. Qin Shaolu slowly calmed down and silently nodded. Wu Xingwen scoffed, then raised his voice. Man of character? How laughable! Do you think bullying the weak is the right thing to do? Everyone was shocked. This is the first time the Ding Yuan general has revealed his crimes, which means this must be true. Gu Qingshan calmly spoke. As a human general, you slander others like this. That is bullying the weak. How dare you? Wu Xingwen pointed at Gu Qingshan, about to say something else. Do you really want to die? Although I can't win against you right now, I can beg Shifu to take your lowly life. Gu Qingshan squinted her eyes and spoke. Trust me, I'm not joking, I'm serious, he said. Wu Xingwen couldn't help but retract his hand, feeling a bit scared. If the other party were to openly do something like that, with Baihua Fairy's carefree personality, she might actually want to take his life. Wu Xingwen begrudgingly spoke. Aren't you just using your Shifu to disregard military authority? Now that the decisive battle is upon us, you're still thinking of taking revenge on this general. How selfish and cruel. Gu Qingshan's face was expressionless, speaking word by word. If you say one more word, I'll beg Shifu to take your life right now. He took out a communication talisman and held it in his hand. Infusing it with spirit energy, the talisman lit up. Wu Xingwen looked at him, opened his mouth, but couldn't say a single word. He really couldn't say anything. This matter needs to be handled properly. The best way is to make sure the other side can't even raise their heads and can't face the saint. This brat is just like the spirit beast said, using his power to bully others, killing Li Chuqian for a personal grudge. So why is he still so stubborn? From the looks of it, he doesn't seem like he's going to swallow this. Isn't he afraid that the saint will find out about this and think that he's a bad person? Bastard. This brat. Not only did he ruin his reputation, he even dared to embarrass me in front of everyone. What a despicable bastard. Wu Xingwen was so angry that he almost broke his teeth. Inside the armor, his body trembled slightly, as if some uncontrollable emotions were brewing. Looking around, it was true that everyone was angry at Gu Shan, but they didn't dare to say anything. Gu Shan sighed and said, "I'm actually a little curious." "Why do you say that?" Qin Xiaolu teased. He was already feeling uncomfortable when he was blocked by Wu Xing when in a few sentences, but he didn't expect his junior brother to be able to block him with just a few sentences. He's clearly a general, yet he uses such shady methods that can't be shown in public. When it comes to a direct confrontation, he's so greedy for life and afraid of death. Ha ha! Qin Xiaolu laughed wildly. Gu Shan looked at Wu Xing, one with a strange look in her eyes. Gu Shan's expression was indifferent when he was isolated by everyone. But now, he seemed to be a little worried. "That's enough. Don't say any more." Gong Sun Ji walked over. "Old Wu, I owe you a favor." He clasped his fist. "Go ahead." Wu Xing Wen's expression darkened. "I don't care about your business. Just give Gu Shan to me. I have my own arrangements," Gong Sun Ji said. Hearing that, Wu Xing was a bit hesitant. Should I accept or reject? Just like in the previous war, it was Gu Shan who asked by Hua, Saint, to save Gong Sun Ji. If that's the case, wouldn't I be letting him go? But the war is right around the corner. I won't let this go. Wait a minute, I want to ruin Gu Shan's reputation. But at this point, why would I? As Wu Xing Wen's thoughts flashed by, while he was hesitating, he suddenly felt an uncontrollable rage in his chest. Resentment, fury, resentment, brutal, killing intent. All sorts of emotions and thoughts erupted at the same time and surged into his mind. A voice suddenly came from his mind. "That's right. I've already prepared a backup plan. I can't let him go. My next step is to kill him on the way." As soon as that thought popped up, all of his worries were crushed. Wu Xing looked at Gong Sun Ji, then at Gu Shan, then smiled. "I'm sorry, General Gong Sun, but he's one of my subordinates. I've already given my order, so I can't take it back. Not to mention, I can't just casually transfer people around a person like that. It's best if he doesn't harm your troops." His tone was very gentle, shrugging as if to say that he can't do anything about it. "Then what about me?" A female voice suddenly came from the sky. All the cultivators looked up. In the sky, the 100 Flowers Fairy was silently standing there, with Xianyuan, Tianzuan, and the great monk of sorrow on her left and right. "Greetings, Saint." The cultivators all bowed to greet her. The 100 Flowers Fairy's eyes were cold, looking at Wu Xing without changing her expression. "I'm going to ask you. I want to take Gu Shan away from your hands. Will you allow it?" She exuded an intense spirit pressure. Even the black clouds in the sky were blown away by it. Boom! An unparalleled spiritual pressure erupted, and the tens of thousands of cultivators present were forced to kneel on the ground. "Why don't you tell me?" The 100 Flowers Fairy's tone was calm, but the spirit pressure she exuded was increasing by the second. The 100 Flowers Fairy was furious. On the way here, she was still feeling smug that her disciple found out such a shocking secret. This matter could very well decide the course of this war. The other two saints were also shocked, feeling that the truth of this matter was too bizarre. The 100 Flowers Fairy even jokingly said that after the war is over, she'll raise her disciple's military rank. Then the three saints arrived at the front lines, only to see that Gu Shan was isolated by everyone assigned to deliver supplies. Even the supplies were pushed aside. The three saints saw that Gong Sun Ji came to ask for her, but Wu Xing also rejected him. The three saints of humanity were all smart people, so they immediately noticed what was going on. Isn't this the same as openly going against him? Because of that, Xie Dao Ling couldn't hold it in anymore. Facing the 100 Flowers Fairy, Wu Xing felt all of his emotions being emptied out. All of his thoughts and killing intent from before, as if he was afraid of the 100 Flowers Fairy, had completely disappeared. Feeling the 100 Flowers Fairy's anger, Wu Xing was so scared that he hurriedly bowed. "The saints have ordered. I will naturally obey." "Very well. My disciple is a scourge," the 100 Flowers Fairy slowly spoke. "And you even had my disciple deliver supplies to the front lines. You Ding Yuan, General Sure, are capable." The 100 Flowers Fairy had never said something like that before. She's always been a person who doesn't care about personal matters, so for her to say something like that means she's furious. Wu Xingwen's heart trembled, hurriedly turned to Xianyuan Tianzuan and begged for help. Shifu, Xianyuan Tianzuan scowled. What exactly is going on here? We're about to fight, so why are you holding on to a disciple like that? Could it be that he really did something wrong, that he dared to embarrass a Ding Yuan general in front of everyone? If that's the case, even if I offend Xie Dao Ling, I still have to stand up for my disciple. Xianyuan Tianzuan cleared his throat and asked, "What's going on?" Wu Xingwen then told him everything that happened, adding oil to the fire. It was unexpectedly smooth. An inexplicable thought flashed through his mind. After this, Shifu might very well break off a relationship with 100 Flowers Fairy. You mean you called the people of Spirit Beast sect here, and after listening to the Spirit Beast's words, you feel that there's something wrong with him? Xianyuan Tianzuan's slowly gathering spirit suddenly stopped. His expression became very strange. Amit Ba, the great monk of sorrow, suddenly uttered a Buddhist chant, but quickly shut his mouth. His eyes first met with Gu Qingshan's, then casually glanced at Wu Xingwen. Chapter 221. Looking at the three saints, Wu Xingwen's heart sank. He's the one in the right here, and justice is on his side. Even if 100 Flowers Fairy was angry, his Shifu should have protected him. Even the great monk of sorrow, who can't stand a single grain of sand, would stand on his side. No matter how strong 100 Flowers Fairy is, facing two saints at once, she can only swallow her anger. At that time, I'll be able to show my righteous image in front of everyone. Even 100 Flowers Fairy won't be able to touch me in front of the other two saints. This will also deal a blow to Bai Hua Sect's reputation, getting back what they lost in the semester examination. Gu Qingshan will also lose her reputation from then on, no longer having that bullshit Sword 15 nickname. That's killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Who knew that as soon as the 3 saints arrived, not only did Shifu not protect me, even the great monk of sorrow spoke up. Why is that? Wu Xingwen felt dizzy, as if there was a wall blocking his mind, preventing him from thinking clearly. Qin Xiaolu, you should go and finish your original task. Gu Qingshan, come with me. 100 Flowers Fairy waved her hand, taking Gu Qingshan to the cloud, and stood behind her. Yes, Shifu. Qin Xiaolu happily jumped back, glaring at Wu Xingwen on the way. Let's put this aside for now. 100 Flowers Fairy tried to hold it in for a while before finally speaking. That's right. There's something more important to do right now. About your disciple. We'll give him justice later. Xianyuan Tianzuan also tried to persuade her. Hearing that, Wu Xingwen was even more frightened. But there's no turning back now. The great monk of sorrow looked at the cultivators and spoke with a gentle voice. Amit Ba, to find the traitor, this saint has come up with a method to identify them. Everyone put down your weapons, inventory bags, and spirit beast bags, then enter the tent one by one. With the power of Buddhism, this saint will quickly find the traitor. After we've identified the traitor, we'll immediately head to Demon Cloud's river to fight the demons. Yes. The cultivators responded in unison. Since the monk of sorrow had a way to solve the problem, it was naturally for the best. At this time, the 100 Flowers Fairy brought Gu Qingshan into the tent, while Xianyuan Tianzuan looked at everyone and spoke. The 3 Ding Yuan generals come in first. Hearing this, Wu Xingwen hesitated as he glanced at the other 2 Ding Yuan generals, only to see that Gongsun Ji and Ming Hui Monk had already followed Xianyuan Tianzuan inside. Wu Xingwen stood there in a daze, then suddenly laughed. What was going on? Why don't I want to go in? Wu Xingwen shook his head and followed him into the tent. Seeing Wu Xingwen walk into the tent, the great monk of sorrow who had been silent all this while let out a sigh of relief, as if he was celebrating something. There's still hope, he muttered in an almost inaudible voice before entering the tent. A moment later, the 3 Ding Yuan generals walked out. They very naturally called out to their subordinates and organized the cultivators of various sects and clans to enter the military tent in an orderly manner. One by one, the cultivators lined up in a long line and quickly entered the military tent. This process was too quick, so quick that it felt like it was just for show. Because of this, a strange scene appeared in the military tent. The cultivators entered the military tent with blank expressions, then quickly came out from the other side. Among the cultivators waiting in line to be screened, some of the smarter ones among them had the same answer in their minds. The three saints were just going through the motions. The reason why they did this was to reassure everyone before the final battle. How is it? How did the saints identify traitors? What kind of spell is it? A few cultivators who haven't gone in yet grabbed the cultivators who just came out and asked curiously. A Buddhist secret technique? You'll know once you go, and the cultivators who just came out kept them in suspense and answered mysteriously. After all the cultivators had gone through the military tent, the three saints reappeared on the general selection platform. From their expressions, they seemed a bit tired. But the strange thing was, even now, not a single traitor was found. And the great monk of sorrow didn't seem to be in the mood to talk about this. The entire military camp was silent. No one asked who the mole was at the wrong time. In the midst of silence, the three saints spoke. Let's go, Xinyuan Tianzuan asked. Let's go. Success or failure depends on this, the 100 Flowers Fairy answered. Ba, may the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas protect humanity, the great monk of sorrow said. Demon Cloud's River. This was a vast river in front of the Demon Palace. This river was originally called Cloud's River, but after the Tiamat from the outside world descended, it was renamed Demon Cloud's River. Legend has it that many years ago, when the Demon Palace appeared in this world, to avoid attracting the attention of the living beings of this world, the demons of the other world diverted the river water and used a secret technique to isolate this place. The Demon Cloud's River was shrouded in mist all day long. The wind didn't disperse. Birds couldn't fly. Fish couldn't swim. Only a few mountain peaks on top of the river were covered in green spirit plants, looking like a celestial mountain. If you didn't know, you wouldn't be able to think that this place was actually the territory of the demons. Behind the Demon Cloud's River was the Demon Palace. Although it's called the Demon Palace, it actually looks more like a temple. This temple was made from solid black metal, without a single hole in it, only a single black gate that was wide open. Standing outside, looking in from afar, you could see a graceful figure sitting on the altar. Because of the limited vision, you can only see the thin feather clothing she was wearing, but not her face or expression. No one knows what kind of person is being worshipped on the altar. And no one has ever been able to sneak into this temple to see what's going on. At the time, Gongsun Ji and Ning Yuechan also came back from Shenwu World and wanted to go in to see what's going on, only to be discovered by the demons and be exposed. The camp in front of the Demon Cloud's River. Countless demons of all shapes and sizes were standing in formation. They roared and roared, impatiently waiting for the military order to charge into the cultivator army and slaughter them in a frenzy. Not far from them, on the other side, was the human race's army. Tens of thousands of human cultivators were completely silent, looking at the demons without saying a word. Inside every formation, large-scale defensive formations and offensive formations were already prepared. The cultivators were also holding their weapons in their hands. They were also waiting for the next order. On this day, as if even heaven and earth had sensed it, the sun didn't rise for the entire day. High up in the sky, thick dark clouds were gathering, covering the entire sky and making the earth seem cold and gloomy. The two armies were facing each other. The drums of war were about to be beaten. Suddenly, 13 figures floated up from the demonic clouds river and landed between the two armies with a majestic aura. A tall old man wearing a white robe appeared. His white hair was tied into a neat Taoist bun, and he wore a long white robe. His skin was also sickly pale, and there were cracks on both sides of his eyes. Once he smiled, his white vertical pupils looked especially ferocious. This was the inheritor of the divine beast White Tiger's bloodline, a saint who has been a beast saint for hundreds of years, the strongest beast saint, Venerable Exine. Venerable Exine clasped his hands behind his back, laughing. This old man is here. Why don't I see the three saints? When he opened his mouth to speak, the other 12 figures landed quietly and stood respectfully behind him. In the army formation, when the fiendish demons heard his voice, all of their minute movements immediately paused, not daring to make the slightest sound. A cloud slowly flew out from the human army, landing in front of the white-robed venerable Exant. Chapter 2:22. The white-robed venerable Exant evaluated the three saints of humanity one by one, silently thinking about his plan. This plan has been in the works for a very long time, starting several dozen years before the Demon Lord came to this world. But now, even the Demon Lord has gone to another world, leaving the war to me. The other world's demons have already followed the Demon Lord to another world to enjoy the fruits of victory. But they won't allow me and the others to follow them. How detestable! Now that the war has reached this point, I've already reached the end of the road. I have no choice but to fight with my life on the line. The red-faced Taoist is Xianyuan Tianzuan. As long as I can hide this from him, I'll be halfway to success. Although 100 Flowers Fairy is strong, she's used to being lazy and doesn't like to scheme too much. The Great Monk of Sorrow is also easy to deal with. As long as the other two saints make a decision, the Great Monk of Sorrow will silently follow and only be responsible for putting in effort. So this time, the most important thing is to convince Xianyuan Tianzuan. The next step must be a success. Otherwise, when the Demon Lord returns, I'll definitely end up in a terrible state. Thinking that, the white-robed venerable Xian's hesitation disappeared. Amit Ba, fellow Tao seeker, Exant, long time no see, the Great Monk of Sorrow said. But venerable Xian said, enough with the small talk. I only want to ask you, are you really going to fight this time? Since when was a fake fight? 100 Flowers Fairy scoffed. Venerable Exant looked at her and smiled. Xia Daoling, why are you so serious? Xia Daoling also looked at him and said, if you're not serious, then scram from this world and follow the other world's demons to find another world. Venerable Exant sighed. It's not that easy to find another world. We need to hold our home in our hands first before we can go on our way without worry. That's why there's nothing to say. We'll just fight saying so. Xianyuan Tianzuan already had a talisman in his hand. The talisman was glowing brightly, as if a single wave of Xianyuan Tianzuan's hand would activate a powerful spell. Don't be hasty. Venerable Exant reached his hand out and stopped him. What? Do you want to surrender? Xianyuan Tianzuan was a bit surprised. There are over a dozen of us, and only 3 of you. You should be the one surrendering. One of the beast saints could not help but speak up. Venerable Xian turned around and glanced at the beast saint. The beast saint immediately shut up. Venerable Xian then spoke. If we really were to fight, no matter if it's you or us, someone will definitely die here. Think about how hard it is for us to cultivate, how much wind and rain we have to go through, how much pain we have to go through to reach the sainted realm. Are we going to give up our cultivation for one battle? His tone was gentle and sincere, causing others to unconsciously feel a sense of recognition. Not to mention, Venerable Xian saw that no one said anything. Feeling satisfied, he continued, you are willing to sacrifice human cultivators, but I'm not willing to let my demon subordinates die on the battlefield. What do you want? Xia Daoling asked. Why don't we make a bet? We won't put our lives on the line. We'll just use the result of the bet to determine the winner. The white-robed Venerable Xian smiled and said, what about winning? What about the loss? Xianyuan Tianzuan asked. If you win, we'll immediately surrender, swear on our inner demons, and become your followers from now on, Venerable Xian said. That's not a bad idea, but what if we lose? Xianyuan Tianzuan asked. Then we'll have to ask the 3 saints to leave this world and give us this piece of land. Venerable Xian smiled and said. Xia Daoling suddenly asked. Before the otherworld demons came, humanity and the demon race didn't interfere with each other's business, living in peace for thousands of years. Why can't we tolerate each other now? Venerable Xian recalled what happened in the past and couldn't help but sigh. Those who walk different paths cannot make plans together. That can't be right. Xia Daoling stared at him and spoke very seriously. There must be some kind of benefit that you can't refuse. Otherwise, you wouldn't risk your lives to become the demon's dogs. How about this? Venerable Xian thought for a bit and said, if you win, not only will we become your followers, we'll also tell you this secret. The 3 saints exchanged looks and temporarily fell silent. Obviously, they were using inner sight to discuss how to decide. Venerable Exine understood that, so he didn't rush them and patiently waited. A few moments later, Xianyuan Tianzuan asked, "How do you want to fight?" The white-robed old man was secretly glad, but his expression didn't change. "It's very simple. You and I will fight. The limit is 10 attacks. Whoever gets hit the most loses one-on-one." Xia Dao Ling asked. "That's not possible." Venerable Exine clasped his fist. "The three saints of humanity aren't people that any one of us can deal with. So please relax a bit and fight 2-on-1. The demon race's realm increases very quickly, but their strength can't keep up with their realm. Fighting 2-on-1, they were barely able to stop one of the three saints. It's almost impossible for either side to kill the other within 10 attacks. Not to mention, there are still people watching over the battle from the sidelines." Seeing how fair the conditions were, the three saints were a bit tempted. "However, if you lose, are you really willing to follow us?" 100 Flowers Fairy asked again. "You and I are both saints. What's the point of going back on our words other than making us a laughingstock?" Venerable Exine said. "All right, then we'll fight," 100 Flowers Fairy said. Hearing her say that, the other two saints also nodded. Venerable Exine looked at Xia Dao Ling in surprise, not sure why she was being so easy to talk to today. "But no matter, I've already invited them in." "Very well. Fighting here will easily hurt my subordinates. Please follow me." The white-robed Venerable Exine swung his sleeves and flew towards Demon Cloud's river first. The three saints thought for a bit, then followed. This place is right in between the two armies. If the saints were to use their spells here, there's a high chance that the two armies would be affected. Noticing that they were following, Venerable Exine smirked. "The conditions aren't the key, and the fight isn't the key. The key is to lure the three saints onto Demon Cloud's river at the same time. As long as none of the three saints manage to get onto Demon Cloud's river, what happens next won't be up to them." Venerable Exine's heart was filled with joy. The three saints will definitely die here, unless they break through the void of space and escape into the space vortex. But if that's the case, it'll be very hard to come back, and there's nothing to fear. Not to mention the human cultivators. Once they act, they'll all be dead. The entire world will become my fruit of victory. When the demon lord finds out about this, he'll definitely reward me greatly. Those otherworldly demons who mocked and looked down on him would crawl under his feet and become his subordinates who could decide their lives and deaths. The white-robed old man couldn't help but try his best to calm himself down and maintain a stable flying posture. A dozen bee saints, together with the three saints of humanity, rode on a cloud, flying towards Demon Cloud's river. "Stop! Let's do it here." The white-robed old man identified the direction and casually said. Everyone stopped moving. "Then let's begin." He rubbed his hands. 10 moves is the limit. It's best if we don't hurt each other. Who wants to come up first?" Xianyuan Tianzuan clasped his hands behind his back, flying in between the two sides. "The way I see it, let's fight all three at once." The white-robed old man smiled mysteriously and pointed at 6 bee saints. Following his order, 6 bee saints stepped out and flew towards Xianyuan Tianzuan. 6 bee saints, that's more than enough to kill Xianyuan Tianzuan. The great monk of sorrow and 100 Flowers Fairy saw that the situation wasn't good, so they quickly flew up and stood beside Xianyuan Tianzuan. Chapter 223. If the three saints are in position, then let's begin, Venerable Exine said. Seeing the three saints of humanity and the 6 beast saints in a stalemate, and the three saints had already begun to form hand seals, Venerable Exine silently took a step back. The only chance, right now, the three saints' inner sight was locked onto the 6 beast saints, so they couldn't pay attention to anything else. Venerable Exine quickly tapped his inventory bag and took out a certain item. It was a gray clay jar that didn't look like much. But if you look carefully, you'll notice that there was a faint layer of smoke surrounding the jar. Inside the smoke, there seemed to be countless living beings, giving off a sense of vicissitude. As Venerable Exine looked at this item, his eyes became heated and frenzied. This was the demonic treasure that the demon lord gave him before he left. directly establishing his position among the demons. It was because of this item that he was recognized as the commander of this world's demon army. Venerable Exion smirked, holding the jar close to his chest, and pointed it at the 3 saints and the 6 beast saints. The power of countless demonic gods and beasts, heed my command, freeze. Deep inside Demon Cloud's river, countless black lights floated on the surface of the river, turning into eerie runes. The entire river looked like a giant talisman, but the aura this talisman gave off was full of evil and eerie. The black light on the river exploded. The demonic aura shot up to the sky. This giant talisman seemed to have been activated. Above the river, everything was frozen. Even the invisible river wind was frozen in place, unable to move in the slightest. The 3 saints of humanity's expressions of shock and anger were also frozen. They couldn't even move a muscle. The 6 beast saints that were about to fight against them were also frozen. Using Demon Cloud's river as a talisman, using the power of the Tianma as a catalyst. This Tianma heavenly talisman took 60 years to complete, and now it's finally going to be used. Venerable Exion laughed in a frenzy. A few moments later, all the runes disappeared. A circular black light shot out from the bottom of Demon Cloud's river, enveloping the 3 saints and the 6 beast saints. The black light trapped both sides within it. The 9 sainted realm cultivators were still unable to move a single inch inside the black light. Although this was a powerful sealing technique, it still couldn't cause any damage to the 3 saints of humanity. Venerable Exion's eyes were filled with joy. He spat out a mouthful of green blood, roared and chanted an incantation. 10-dimensional worlds, boundless dust kill sea. Let the trillions be in the Asenji tribulation. Countless great freedom heavenly demons have surrounded us. When he started chanting, the entire Demon Cloud's river stopped flowing. Be it the waves, the torrents, the whirlpools, or the waves, they all stopped moving. Venerable Exon laughed loudly, raised the vase above his head, and shouted, "Come!" The torrential Demon Cloud's river quickly rolled up and turned into a ball of water that emitted a vast mist. Then it flew into the clay jar. Without water, the bottom of the Demon Cloud's river was filled with yellow sand. It was like a barren desert without any signs of life. The entire demonic cloud's river no longer looked like a paradise filled with spiritual energy. Venerable Exine spat out another mouthful of blood, exerted all his strength to control the vase, and shouted, "Tianma, show yourself." From the vase, a black light shot out and struck the countless layers of sand at the bottom of Demon Cloud's river. All the sand instantly disappeared. So underneath this layer of sand was the true face of Demon Cloud's river. And now, with Venerable Exion's spell, the true face of Demon Cloud's river was finally revealed to everyone. The densely packed black statues lined up one after another, filling up the entire river. Every single one of these statues was a woman with a bewitching appearance and alluring body. They were all wearing thin palace dresses that showed off their beautiful bodies. All of them were doing all sorts of seductive poses. As Venerable Exin looked at these statues, his vicious eyes couldn't help but flash with fear. He mustered up his courage and shouted at the remaining demon saints behind him, "My demon energy is completely depleted. Come and lend me a hand." Taking out the vase only took a few breaths worth of time, but he had already used up all of his beast energy. The remaining 6 beast saints knew that this was a crucial moment, so they all placed their hands on his body and poured all of their beast energy into him. With the help of the 6 abundant beast energy, Venerable Exion's expression changed. He formed a few hand seals at the vase, then pointed at the countless black female statues. He shouted, "Mahesvara, Mahesvara, he has become Mahesvara. All worlds, Tianma, bewitching women, return." The vase started to shake. The countless statues below also started to shake. Ki! A clear sound came from the vase, shaking heaven and earth. Following this sound, an invisible force seemed to be acting on the thousands of statues. The layers of black paint on the statues started to fall off. One by one, the palace-made statues came to life. Her skin was as white as snow, and her face was captivating. Her dull eyes suddenly became lively and full of spirit. As she looked around, no one could take their eyes off her, but their bodies were still as blurry as mist, unable to be seen. Thousands of maids lightly flew up, filling the sky like fairies from heaven descending to the mortal realm. Two beautiful women flew out and nodded at Venerable Exine. They kept their mouths shut and didn't say anything, but there were billions of voices echoing in Venerable Exine's ears at the same time. You've been in this world for 60 years, hiding as a spirit beast. Now that you're free, you've done a great service. You flatter me. It's all thanks to your hard work. Venerable Exine clasped his fist again and again, a stiff smile on his face. Seeing him like that, the two women didn't say anything else, turned around and flew to either side of the vase. Venerable Exine quickly stepped back. The two women, one on the left and one on the right, carried the vase and slowly flew towards the three saints of humanity. As they flew, their bodies started to grow, so did the vase. By the time they reached the forbidden area of the black circle, the vase was already big enough to hold the three saints of humanity and the 6 beast saints. At this time, a crack suddenly appeared in the void of space, letting out a sunset-like light. Within the light, indescribable screams of pain could be heard. Occasionally, terrifying figures flashed and disappeared. The two women used the vase to hold the three saints of humanity and the 6 beast saints, then flew into the light. As soon as they left, the light disappeared. The void of space also slowly closed up. Venerable Exine held his breath until now, finally couldn't help but laugh out loud. Ah, they're all gone. They're all gone. From now on, the three saints of humanity will never be seen again in this world. So simple, so easy, the three saints of humanity will never be able to return. He was overjoyed. Venerable Exine, may I ask, where did the 6 beast saints go? One of the beast saints carefully asked. Venerable Exine was in a good mood, so he answered, they went to the Tiamat realm of freedom. Don't worry. The three saints of humanity are dead for sure. Our people will be left behind to practice the Tiamat scripture. From now on, their strength will increase by leaps and bounds. Even you and I won't be able to catch up hearing that. The beast saint thought for a bit, then swallowed the words he was about to say. Seeing his reaction, Venerable Exine knew that his words were enough to fool them, making him even more happy. No matter who it is, once they go to the Tiamat realm of freedom, do they think they'll be able to survive? Not to mention the physical body, even the soul would be devoured cleanly. Losing 6 beast saints in exchange for the death of the three saints of humanity, this is quite a good deal. And the remaining beast saints, if they know what's good for them, can still become his subordinates and live comfortably. Now, it's time to reap the fruits of victory. He licked his lips, looking at the human cultivators' camp from afar. If these human cultivators were attacked by the spirit beasts they've always trusted, what kind of expression would they have? He showed a cruel smile and turned to look at the Tiamat enchantresses in the sky. A Tiamat enchantress nodded at him. Chapter 224. Our side will also go, have the army attack. Venerable Exine ordered. Upon hearing this, a demon saint unfurled the flag in his hand and shouted, charge! All the demons in the demon camp roared in unison. They turned into a cloud of dust and charged towards the human camp. At the same time, in the human camp, the spirit beast bags on the waist of countless cultivators suddenly exploded. The spirit beasts jumped out from the bags and madly attacked their masters. The entire human camp was in chaos. Many cultivators were rolling on the ground, getting killed by their own spirit beasts. A few of the more powerful spirit beasts saw an opening and jumped towards the defensive plates, destroying them in just a few hits. They didn't stop, only choosing to destroy the defensive plates, trying to make all of humanity's defenses lose their effectiveness before the demon army arrives. On the human camp, countless lights suddenly lit up, then quickly turned into sparks of light and disappeared into the void of space. This was the scene of defensive formations collapsing one after another. And at this point, in just a few breaths worth of time, the demons will charge in and start a fierce and brutal massacre. Without the large-scale defensive formations, the demons that outnumber the humans by several times will quickly scatter the human cultivators and devour them. The cooperation between the demon and the spirit beast was perfect. It was marvelous. There's no longer any suspense in this war. Venerable Exen shouted in high spirits, "Children, let's go. Eat these humans. This world belongs to us, the beasts." The demons roared as they charged into the human camp. A one-sided slaughter had begun. Humanity's fate has already been decided. The demons have finally taken over this world. Venerable Exen clasped his hands behind his back and ordered, "The rest of you go kill as well, lest too many of our descendants lose their lives." "Yes," the rest of the beast saints all replied. They turned into blurred images and quickly charged towards the human camp. Venerable Exine nodded in satisfaction. "This is the proudest day of my life. Once the demon lord returns, I'll definitely be greatly rewarded. Maybe the next time he invades another world, the demon lord will bring me along. I heard that conquering an entire world will bring great benefits." When the time came, he would have to pay attention and figure out this secret. Just as he was thinking, he noticed that there seemed to be a small problem in front of him. Venerable Exine suddenly looked up. "No, it doesn't seem to be a small problem." Following the collapse of the large-scale defensive formation, tens of thousands of demons charged into the human camp. But at the same time, something strange happened. A beam of cold, spiritual light shone from the human camp. The spiritual light was like a sharp blade, instantly splitting into two into four, and finally into 49 frost blades, all of which revolved around the human camp in a frenzy. For a time, flesh and blood of humans and demons flew everywhere, and cries shook the heavens. The entire human camp was dyed in a layer of white frost. The icy spiritual chi disappeared, followed closely by a fiery red spiritual light that quickly enveloped the entire human camp. The fiery spiritual light was like a flowing lava waterfall, enveloping all the demons and spirit beasts in the human camp, even the tens of thousands of human cultivators. Another ray of golden light transformed into the image of a sword and saber, and it moved about freely within the human camp. Everywhere it passed, blood rained down, and no one could stop it. Suddenly, a thunderstorm erupted. All the stars in the sky fell. Millions of living beings couldn't stop it. In just a few breaths' time, they all died. Then, dust and sand flew everywhere. Like a tidal wave, thousands of bodies of flesh and blood crashed into the sharp spikes on the ground, quickly drowning the sand underground. Venerable Exine's heart froze as he saw this. This was a large-scale offensive formation of the human race. But what made Venerable Exine and the Beast Saints in disbelief was that these large-scale offensive formations didn't attack outside of the human camp like they usually did. These formations were all aimed inside the human camp. The war attack spirit formations were activated one after another, and the humans and demons within the spirit formations were slaughtered by the powerful spirit formations. There was no pause for even a moment. Humanity's offensive formations were aimed at themselves and not at their enemies, something that had never happened before. It was as if from the very beginning, humanity had already prepared to die together with them. A few fiendish demons managed to escape from the human camp, but most of them perished together with the human cultivators in the layers of large-scale offensive spirit formations. The three saints were already gone. The demons had the upper hand. The spirit beasts were rebelling, but the human cultivators didn't even care about their own lives and used this method of mutual destruction. Both the demons and spirit beasts suffered heavy casualties. Many Tianma enchantresses appeared from the corpses of the spirit beasts, their expressions as cold as ice as they flew towards the Demon Palace Temple on the other side of Demon Cloud's river. "The human race sure is brave," Venerable Exen sighed, having no choice but to accept the fact that it was a Pyrrhic victory. Although humanity had tens of thousands of elite cultivators participating in the battle, the sects still have many cultivators left to defend. Humanity's sects all have their own defensive formations, so it'll be hard to deal with them in the future. Now that so many of his subordinates have died, when the time comes to attack the sects, he might even have to do it himself. Breaking through the defensive formations that have been passed down for tens of thousands of years, even he would be exhausted. But there's no other way. Let's win this battle first, then think about what comes next. Following Venerable Exion's sigh, all sorts of dazzling large-scale offensive formations slowly stopped. Everything was over. Suddenly, Venerable Exion opened his eyes wide. On the human camp, there were thousands of corpses of demons and spirit beasts. But all of the human cultivators were gone. There were no signs of concealment formations activating, no signs of escaping, no desperate screams of self-destruction. Not a single human cultivator's corpse was left behind. They just disappeared without a trace. This was a true disappearance, without a single trace, not even a strand of hair to be found. What's going on? Where are they? Hurry and find them. Venerable Exion instinctively shouted. He quickly rushed forward. Together with the other beast saints, they began to search in a frenzy. The demons that were still alive were all stunned, looking at each other, not knowing what to do. The spirit beasts that were lucky enough to survive all fell to the ground, no longer breathing. The Tianma Enchantress's figures all gave up their spirit beast bodies and flew to the sky. They seemed to have noticed something, so they didn't even bother to look at the beast saints, only flying towards the Demon Palace Temple. While flying, the Tianma Enchantresses were chanting, Luo, Jia, Jia, Luo, 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 Jia, Duo, Sha. Above the Demon Palace Temple, countless rays of light began to shine, manifesting into an illusory grand palace that welcomed the Tianma Enchantresses inside. On the human camp, a faint spirit fog began to spread, then was slowly blown away by the wind. This spirit fog, a demonic beast, Saint murmured thoughtfully. Venerable Exion grabbed the beast saint and shouted in a frenzy, What's wrong with this spirit fog? Tell me, or I'll kill you. The beast saint was shocked, quickly replied, This spirit fog seems to be the excess spirit energy left behind after the spell was dispelled. Venerable Exion let go of him and shook his head. No, that's impossible spell. How laughable. What kind of spell could instantly make tens of thousands of cultivators disappear? In this world, there's no way humanity could have such a spell. Even if the three saints were here, they wouldn't be able to do it. Venerable Exion stopped for a bit, forcing himself to calm down and carefully think. The Monk of Sorrow is a Buddhist cultivator. Although Buddhist spells are good against Tianma, they can't hide their tracks to such an extent. Xianyuan Tianzuan is an expert in talismans and 5 elemental spells, but even talismans can't have such unbelievable power. Not to mention, Xianyuan Tianzuan hasn't used such a miraculous spell in the past few hundred years. Not to mention by Hua Fairy, other than her powerful martial thaumaturgy and countless killing spells, she only knows. Venerable Exion was stunned for a split second, then his body shook and coughed up blood. Xia Daoling. Chapter 2:25. Above the thick dark clouds, a woman wearing a bright green feather dress silently stood there. The wind blowing on her body was like a gentle breeze brushing against a willow, causing her clothes to flutter in the wind, making her look like a dream. Her face was shrouded in a thin veil, concealing her devastatingly beautiful face. Only a pair of limpid eyes were exposed, and from time to time, they would turn intelligently, as if she was thinking about something. Suddenly, as if she sensed something, the corner of her lips curled up, then slowly widened. Who would have thought, aside from swordsmanship, you'd also know how to use tricks? With a smile on her face, she tilted her head and muttered. From the look on her face, she still couldn't believe what she was seeing. The myriad incarnation thaumaturgy had always been a hobby of hers for fun. Who would have thought, under her disciple's suggestion, she'd use it for a major event? A major event that could decide the survival of humanity. 100 Flowers Fairy sensed the situation below. Noticing that it's about time, she lightly waved her sleeve. In a flash, a red-faced Taoist and an old monk appeared. "How is my disciple's strategy good?" 100 Flowers Fairy raised her chin and proudly asked. The great monk of sorrow heaved a long sigh and said, "Lured 6 demon saints out of this realm, ambushed and killed tens of thousands of spiritual beasts, and even hundreds of thousands of demons, and we didn't lose a single soldier. This battle is truly the first I've seen in my life. Such strategy, perhaps he'll be able to become a general," Xianyuan Tianzuan also praised. "Then what about my disciple?" Xie Daoling looked at Xianyuan Tianzuan provocatively. Xianyuan Tianzuan froze, then begrudgingly said, "We'll talk about it after the battle is over." Xie Daoling smiled and said nothing else. The 3 saints released their inner sight to scan the area below. "Let us begin," the great monk of sorrow said. "It's our turn," Xianyuan Tianzuan nodded. Xie Daoling also nodded. She looked at a certain high ground and thought for a bit. That high ground was much higher than the surrounding terrain, easy to defend and hard to attack, a position that the 3 of them had already chosen. She waved her long sleeves again. Divine skill, sleeve universe, large groups of cultivators appeared on the high ground. They had long been prepared. As soon as their feet touched the ground, they began to quickly set up arrays, distribute talismans, elixirs, and form a battle formation. They were extremely busy. Ding Yuan, General Gongsun Ji, and Ding Yuan, General Ming Hui Monk were directing the cultivators to set up various formations. But there was no sign of the other Ding Yuan general, Wu Xingwen. In the next few dozen breaths, a series of large-scale defensive formations were successfully set up, and a vast expanse of spiritual light soared into the sky. Dozens of even more dazzling lights flickered incessantly, and dozens of large-scale offensive spell formations were activated one after another. This time, the attack formation was facing outwards. The entire allied human army quickly got ready for battle. A demon saint rushed forward to test the waters and immediately triggered dozens of powerful spell formations to attack. The multicolored beams of light bombarded its body, causing it to roar incessantly. However, with it disrupting the human army's formation, the few remaining demons were able to slowly retreat without being killed by the spell formations. The demon saint was in so much pain that it couldn't get close to the large-scale offensive spell formations. So in a fit of rage, it was about to unleash its full power. As it looked up, it saw the 3 saints of humanity slowly flying towards it. The demon saint was scared, but didn't want to attack anymore. It twisted its body and desperately flew back to the demon army. The 3 saints didn't chase after it. They exchanged glances and landed in front of the human army. TSK, what a gamble. Fellow Tao, Seeker, Exen, with your brain, you must have thought about this for over 1,000 years, Xie Daoling lightly smiled and said. Venerable Exion's nose and mouth were bleeding. Staring at the 3 saints, he opened his mouth a few times but couldn't say anything. Even after spending all of his effort and sacrificing 6 demon saints, he still couldn't achieve anything. At this point, Venerable Exion wanted nothing more than to kill the 3 of them. Which one have you noticed? Finally, he asked, unwilling to give up. This saint's disciple, Xie Daoling proudly replied, then continued, How does it feel to lose? How about you just give up? At least you can keep your life. Ba, now that 6 of you have already lost, the rest of you won't be able to suppress us anymore. The great monk of sorrow smiled and said. Xianyuan Tianzuan couldn't be bothered to say anything else. He tapped his inventory bag and took out a divine talisman. At this point, 80 to 90% of the 100,000 demons are dead. The spirit beasts are all dead, and only half of the beast saints are left. Whether it's a battle on the battlefield or a duel between the 2 sides, humanity's victory is almost guaranteed. In such a situation, if the other side still doesn't know what's good for them, then I'll just have to go all out. Venerable Exion sighed and was about to say something. Suddenly, a hand appeared in front of his chest. A slender, fair, and nimble hand pierced through his chest. In this hand, there was a beating heart. Venerable Exen opened his eyes wide, coughing up more blood. Everyone was shocked by this scene. Everything happened so suddenly that the beast saints and the three saints of humanity couldn't even react in time. Formless Tiamat Saint King, you... Venerable Exen gritted his teeth and turned around to ask. Behind him, a woman wearing a thin royal dress coldly spoke. Because you wasted a great chance and even destroyed the demon lord's preparations for the past 10 years. As soon as she said so, she clenched her hand and crushed the heart. An idiot like you doesn't deserve to lead the demons in battle, and you definitely don't deserve to follow the demon lord. The woman retracted her hand and lightly touched Venerable Exion's head. I tried my best. Venerable Exion's eyes were filled with anger. The punishment for failure is to steal your soul and become a blood slave for all eternity. Never to return, the woman said. Her hand lightly tapped Venerable Exion's forehead. With a pop, Venerable Exion's head exploded. Red, white, blue, and green flew everywhere, followed by a mist of blood. The headless body fell down, heavily hitting the ground, no longer moving. A sainted realm beast king was easily killed on the spot. After doing all that, the woman looked at her body. Her body was slowly becoming illusory. Formless Tiamat, Saint King, waved her hand behind her. On the other side of Demon Cloud's river, inside the Demon Palace Temple, the Tiamat enchantress's chanting became louder and louder. At once, it sounded like billions of female voices were chanting at the same time. Luo Jaluo Luo Shi, Luhali, Ma Luo Hali Aluo, Jaluo, Duo Luo, Soha. Following the chanting, the formless Tiamat, Saint King's body became solid again. She then chuckled. How disappointing! My preparations were ruined by an idiot. Even my time in this world was greatly shortened. The three saints looked at her with strange expressions on their faces. They silently stared at the formless Tiamat, Saint King, in front of them, as if they were looking at a living miracle. Did you notice? Xin Yuan Tianzuan shouted. Indeed, your spirit energy wave is stronger than mine, although not by much. It definitely doesn't belong to the sainted realm. Xiet Dao Ling evaluated the formless Tiamat, Saint King, from top to bottom and muttered. Chapter 226. Formless heavenly demon, Holy King, crossed her hands and began to cast a spell. A large amount of invisible ripples suddenly appeared in the sky, like a boulder falling into the water. Just as the Tianma was about to cast the spell, Xin Yuan Tianzuan tapped his inventory bag, took out a palm-sized copper-colored tortoiseshell, and threw a handful of coins on it. The first of the 6 arts, divination. The formless Tiamat Saint King is a monster that the three saints have never seen before, and its realm is higher than the three saints. That's why Xin Yuan Tianzuan couldn't help but use divination to try and pry into heaven's secrets. The price of peeking into the heavenly secrets was very heavy, but it was nothing compared to dying. The copper coins collided with the tortoise shell and fell to the ground. There's fire above the heavens. The wind and fire fan the furnace. Only when there is fire and there is no wind. She is summoning something, and once that thing enters her hand, you and I will die. He frowned as he stared at the turtle shell and quickly said. The 100 Flowers Fairy reached out her hand, quickly calculated with her fingers. 2 breaths later, she and Xin Yuan Tianzuan spoke at the same time. It's that vase. As soon as they finished speaking, the formless heavenly devil Holy King spell was completed. In the next moment, rays of dim yellow light broke through the void, and a gray clay pot flew out. This was the demonic artifact Venerable Xian used before. The mysterious vase that had released an incredible amount of power floated silently above the demonic cloud's river. The place where it had appeared was where it had flown into the void with the 3 saints and the 6 beast saints. We definitely can't let it get that demonic artifact, otherwise it'll be like a tiger with wings. You and I will both die, Xin Yuan Tianzuan said solemnly. The 3 saints looked up at the sky. The smile on formless sky demon Holy King's face disappeared as she glared at the 3 saints. Divination? As expected, the human race should have been wiped out a long time ago. As she spoke, Her figure moved, and she flew toward the clay jar floating above the Demon Clouds River. She was already on the bank of the Demon Clouds River, very close to the clay pot, while the third saint was several hundred feet away from the Demon Clouds River in front of the human race's camp. So it was too late to stop them. Xianyuan Tianzuan suddenly shouted, "I can't make it. I'll do it." Xie Daoling raised her voice. She suddenly disappeared, and when she reappeared, her fist had already landed on formless heavenly demon, Holy King's face. Martial Wei returns to hiding. Heaven collapses. With a single punch, a torrential flood of martial treasury power erupted. Even the sky could be punched through. This wasn't the fake attack that the Incarnation used to attack Blade Emperor. This was the true full-power attack of the 100 Flowers Fairy. The formless heavenly demon Holy King was hit squarely by this punch. Its body turned into a black shadow and flew away, crossing the dried-up Demon Clouds River and crashing into the Black Temple. Boom! There was a violent noise, and half of the temple collapsed. Xie Daoling hovered in the air and scoffed. He's only one realm higher. It's hard to say who would win in a real battle. She flew to where the vase was, waved her hand, and the vase flew towards the human camp, landing in Xianyuan Tianzuan's hand. Xianyuan Tianzuan sighed in relief, flipped his hand, and put the jar into his inventory bag. The three sages looked towards the Demon Palace Pagoda Temple, but the formless heavenly devil Holy King did not appear again. After a while, something seemed to be moving in the temple. What were they doing? Too scared to come out? Xie Daoling squinted her eyes. Then a loud chanting came from the temple. Bo Bei Yi, Bo Bei Mian, Bo Sun Yu, Bo Sun Yu. The sound of the incantation echoed in all directions. In the face of this incantation, all sounds disappeared without a trace. The cultivators tried to speak, shouted, clapped their hands, but none of them made a sound. Heaven and earth had lost all sound. Xie Daoling's expression was solemn, her hands quickly forming hand seals. Ever since she became a cultivator, she had never seen such an incantation, nor such a scene. Xianyuan Tianzuan once again took out a handful of copper coins and threw them on the tortoise shell. The coins clattered as they landed on the shell, rolled a few times, then fell off. Extreme calamity, he sent his voice to the other two saints. If we don't deal with it quickly, we'll be able to survive, but this world will face a great calamity. Hearing that, the 100 Flowers Fairy scowled. She's never been afraid of Tianma, but a monster like the formless heavenly devil Holy King was a first for her. Not to mention that she's never dealt with a Tianma incantation before. If that's the case, then there's only a bright green glow suddenly appeared around her body. After that, her hands changed the hand seals and quickly formed the first hand seal. This divine skill required a few dozen hand seals, so it would take a bit of time to complete. She then said, "Buy me some time." Seeing this technique, Xianyuan Tianzuan felt his hair standing on end. His lips moved a bit, but didn't say anything, only silently stood in front of Xie Daoling. "Benefactor Xie, this technique of yours takes too much of your lifespan. Please stop." The great monk of sorrow suddenly sighed and sent his voice. "Why is that?" The 100 Flowers Fairy was surprised. The great monk of sorrow sent his voice. According to our Buddhist sect's ancient records, what they're using is a type of Tianma divine skill. Tianma don't know how to fight, but they have a way to summon countless other Tianma to this place. Tianma have always been fond of eating human souls. Even if they can't kill us on the spot, they'll still lurk around, waiting for a chance to kill cultivators one by one in a world. The more Tianma there are, the less people there will be. They'll become more and more stupid until they're no different from animals. If this goes on, the world will be destroyed. Hearing that, both the 100 Flowers Fairy and Xianyuan Tianzuan understood the severity of the situation. The heretic Tianma is the mortal enemy of our Buddhist sect. Only the benevolence of Buddha can subdue them. According to fate, I should be the one to fight this battle. Saying so, the great monk of sorrow slowly walked across Demon Clouds River, heading towards the Demon Palace Temple. "Monk," Xie Daoling muttered. Xianyuan Tianzuan spoke. "Buddhist sect is indeed an expert in dealing with demons. How about we help him hold the line and fight when the situation arises? Siet Dao Ling slowly nodded and released her hand seal. Halfway through the great monk of sorrow's journey, countless beautiful enchantresses flew out from the temple, giggling as they flew towards him. Their clothes didn't even cover their bodies. Their eyes were filled with emotions. Their gestures were filled with emotion. Telusina, Luodina, Roga, also, the enchantresses were all chanting their incantations, making various seductive poses, dancing around the great monk of sorrow. Every single Tianma enchantress in the human world was a beauty that could sway a cultivator's Tao heart. 15 different kinds of light were released from their bodies, enveloping the great monk of sorrow. Various unsightly images appeared one by one. These images were like living fog, squeezing against each other, trying to pull the great monk of sorrow into them. Seeing that, the great monk of sorrow, who was originally kind and gentle, suddenly opened his eyes, speaking with a thunderous voice from his mouth. Ba bo luo mo lin ta ning, sa pa ha. Ba, chin shi jabang, om, palamani, de za pa pa soa. This was the Therni of the Buddhist sect, specialized in dealing with Tianma. As soon as the Therni appeared, it was like a giant hammer striking the void of space, causing the invisible barrier to shatter. Heaven and earth trembled. The thick black clouds were swept away by the wind. The sun, moon, and stars appeared in the deep blue sky. Chapter 227. Inside the Black Pagoda, the formless Tianma, Saint King, seemed to have noticed something was wrong, so she chanted another incantation. Polo wei mo pashiti, bo bai sun bo bai mo bo sun. After this chant, all the Tianma enchantresses seemed to have gained power as they once again hovered in the air. The Tianma enchantresses filled the sky as countless illusory flowers surrounded them, making them look like fairies descending from the heavens. They circled around the great monk of sorrow, slowly forming a tornado that trapped the great monk of sorrow inside. While the great monk of sorrow stood alone in the void of space, his eyes lowered as he chanted Dalani to protect himself. All of a sudden, thousands of Tianma enchantresses chanted the same incantation. Trisana, Luo Dina, Ragayi, they all chanted loudly, cutting off the great monk of sorrow's incantation. The human camp was too far away, so they couldn't hear too clearly, so the effect was limited. But the demons that were leaning against Demon Cloud's river all fell to the ground, screaming in pain as they heard the chants. As if they were being bitten by something, they rolled on the ground, tried to run, but couldn't escape no matter what. A few moments later, many of the demons lost their vitality. But looking at their appearances, they didn't seem to have any wounds. The Tianma enchantresses continued to chant. Bo bai yi, bo bai yu, bo sun yi, Trisana, Ragayi. Wisps of black smoke rose from their bodies and gathered into a ball in midair. This mass of black smoke seems to be their essence. As soon as the black smoke left their bodies, the Tianma enchantresses became a lot weaker. The black smoke rolled a bit in the air, forming into a Tianma lord about a few dozen feet tall. This demon lord had 3 heads, each with a different expression. One was sorrowful, one was angry, and the last one was in pain. The demon lord had 6 hands, each holding a strange-looking weapon. These weapons were constantly changing. Sometimes they were swords, sometimes they were axes, sometimes they were spears, sometimes they were spears. The demon lord held countless weapons. Looking at the great monk of sorrow, its body moved and quickly approached him. Amiba, the demonic flames fill the sky. What can I do? The great monk of sorrow shook his head. He lowered his eyes and suddenly put his palms together and said, I hope that when I attain Bodhi in my next life, my own light will shine brightly on the countless worlds. With the 32 great men as my form, I will dignify my body and let all sentient beings be no different from me. Before he finished, the great monk of sorrow's entire body turned golden. Endless Buddhist chants echoed in the void. Xinyuan Tianzu sighed and said, The old monk is going to use his real power now. Xie Dao Ling also nodded. The demon god with 3 heads and 6 arms crossed the river and swung his weapon at the sorrowful head. Clang! The demon god was actually pushed back a step by the rebounding force. Looking at the monk of sorrow, his entire body was golden as if it was solid. There was not a single wound on his body. The demon lord roared angrily and kept slashing at the great monk of sorrow with his weapon. Sparks flew everywhere, but the great monk of sorrow wasn't hurt at all. Unbreakable diamond, Xie Dao Ling praised. The great monk of sorrow closed his eyes and began to slowly circle around the 3-headed, 6-armed demon lord. The great monk of sorrow seemed to be walking slowly, but he was actually moving very quickly. In the blink of an eye, he had already circled around the demon lord once. Wherever he walked, golden lotuses appeared from the void of space, forming a circle. After circling around once, the great monk of sorrow took a step back. Bean-sized beads of sweat were dripping down from his head. He appeared exhausted. His body was also a bit shaky. He stretched out his hand, made a hand seal, and shouted, "Buzz! Ah! Ho!" Above the golden lotuses, a bright golden light began to shine. The demon lord roared and was about to move again, but hit the void of space and couldn't help but retreat. It tried to move forward again, hit the void of space again, and was forced to take a few steps back. The demon lord turned around and tried to run in another direction. It was still hit the void of space, unable to move forward. It tried to run in every direction, but no matter how much it tried, it couldn't get past the circle of golden lotuses on the ground. Drawing a prison on the ground, Xianyuan Tianzuan praised. The great monk of sorrow formed another hand seal and chanted, "Namo hi luo na duo luo yi nanwuya pajiti sho luo yi saw." The golden lotuses on the ground suddenly bloomed, giving off an endless golden light that pierced the sky. Roar! The demon lord roared in pain. Under the illumination of the golden light, its 3 heads were like snow under the sun, quickly melting and disappearing. After that, the demon lord's weapons, 6 arms, and body also disappeared. As soon as the 3-headed demon lord disappeared, the Tianma enchantresses in the sky all screamed in pain as black smoke came out from their bodies. In a split second, all the beautiful enchantresses lost their clothes and flesh, turning into a bunch of ferocious-looking skeletons. These skeletons swarmed down and ran back into the Black Temple. "Let me help the monk." Xianyuan Tianzuan saw the problem, took out a yellow talisman, and flicked it. The yellow talisman instantly burned. As the flames manifested, the divine beast vermilion bird flapped its wings and flew out from the flames. "Come again." Xianyuan Tianzuan looked at the Black Temple and burned another yellow talisman. From the burning talisman, a divine beast Qilin, whose body was made of flames, slowly walked out from the void of space. "Go!" Xianyuan Tianzuan shouted. The vermilion bird and the Qilins circled in the air, then flew towards the Black Temple. "How could I not help you when you're down?" 100 Flowers Fairy smiled. She can also see that it's a crucial moment, but the great monk of sorrow is still standing still in the air. Obviously, he's used up too much energy, unable to continue. The power of the Buddhist Daoyuo Ni is immense, but the amount of energy it consumes isn't something a normal cultivator can handle. But right now, they can't afford to relax because this is the moment that will decide the outcome of this battle. 100 Flowers Fairy quickly formed a hand seal. In the sky, an illusory figure that blotted out the sun suddenly appeared. It was a 9-clawed great dragon. From the head to the tail, its body stretched for miles. 5 elemental metal, great dragon. "Go 100 Flowers Fairy said. The coiling dragon shook its whiskers and tail and flew toward the black pagoda on a cloud. In just a few moments, the 3 divine beasts arrived above the Black Temple, about to jump down. "Bo Beiyi, Bo Beiyu, Bo Sunyi." From inside the Black Temple, the Tianma's chanting could be heard. As soon as the chanting finished, hundreds and thousands of weapons appeared from the top of the Black Temple. Blades, swords, bows, crossbows, armors, spears, lances, hooks, golden hammers, axes, wheels, ropes. All of them were innumerable. Each and every one of them was giving off a vicious green glow. All of the weapons seemed to be sentient, attacking the three divine beasts on their own. But the vermilion bird, Cheelin, and great dragon seemed to be afraid of these weapons, dodging them while breathing fire at the Black Temple. Chapter 228. Seeing the battle between the three beast saints and the Black Pagoda Temple, the remaining beast saints suddenly reacted. Don't even think about it. They flew towards Demon Cloud's river, wanting to join the battle. Xianyuan Tianzin looked at Xie Dao Ling. Xie Dao Ling swung her sleeve and put the monk of sorrow away. I'll kill them first. You deal with the demon, Xie Dao Ling said. Got it, Xianyuan Tianzin nodded. Xie Dao Ling instantly disappeared and reappeared behind one of the beast saints. Her hands turned into blurred images, attacking the other party over 100 times in a single breath's worth of time. After a series of strikes, she finally turned her palms into fists and struck the other party's neck. Martial thaumaturgy, sky collapse. With a loud crack, the beast saint's neck was bent at an eerie angle. Die. Xie Dao Ling spat out a single word, then struck the other party's back. The demonic saint was sent flying and turned into a rapidly falling black shadow. It suddenly crashed into the ground, causing an earth-shaking rumble. Inside a large crater, the beast saint laid silently at the bottom. It was now that the other beast saints came forward. Xie Dao Ling retreated, curled her pinky finger into her mouth, and whistled. A colorful cloud quickly came from afar. The colorful cloud turned into the peacock beast saint and landed in front of Xie Dao Ling, fairy summoning. Fight together with me, Xie Dao Ling casually said. Yes, the peacock beast saint replied. The beast saints on the other side stopped in their tracks with hesitation on their faces. Of the 13 beast saints, 6 were transported away, Venerable Xian was killed, and Xie Dao Ling just casually killed another one, so there were only 5 left. Their enemies were the 100 Flowers Fairy and Xie Dao Ling, not to mention a peacock beast saint. Their group really couldn't win. Who was Xie Dao Ling? She immediately noticed their hesitation. She took a step forward and looked at the remaining 5 sacred beasts with an indifferent expression. To live or to die, you decide for yourselves, she said. If you really think the 5 of us are afraid of you? One of the beast saints mustered up his courage and gritted his teeth. Just now, Xie Dao Ling casually killed a beast saint. His heart was still trembling when he thought about it. What do you think? Another demon saint, who was more pragmatic, asked in a deep voice. The beast saints looked at each other. After communicating with their divine senses, the leader of the beast saints stepped forward and said, We can withdraw from the battle, but we have a condition. Don't get it wrong, Xie Dao Ling squinted her eyes and spoke calmly. I'm only giving you the choice to live or die. If you stop now, you can still live. Other than that, there are no conditions. The beast saints fell silent. Hurry up and decide. My patience is limited. Xie Dao Ling scowled and spoke impatiently. The demon saints were either angry, flustered, or unwilling. In the end, all of them sighed. I'll stop. I'll stop too. I'm not fighting anymore, they said dejectedly. That's more like it. Go and take care of the demons below. If anyone dares to show even a hint of killing intent towards humanity, I'll hold you responsible. Saying so, Xie Dao Ling flew away with the peacock. The beast saints looked at each other and were speechless for a moment. After a while, one of the beast saints spoke up. Do we really have to listen to her? Another beast saint coldly laughed. Sorrow and Xianyuan are fine, but this is Xie Dao Ling we're talking about. It wasn't easy for me to reach Sainted Realm. I still want to live for a few hundred more years. Saying so, he flew down and shouted for the demons to retreat. The other beast saints pondered for a moment, then sighed and descended. It couldn't be helped if they really thought about it. If they didn't have the advantage in numbers, no one would dare to act rashly in front of Xie Dao Ling Fairy. If they've already submitted, why don't you let them attack the temple? Peacock Beast Saint asked. There's a limit to everything. If you go too far, it'll backfire, Xie Dao Ling replied. Peacock, The following battle is too dangerous. You shouldn't participate. Just help me look after those bee saints." Yes, Peacock wholeheartedly agreed. Xie Daoling nodded and flew next to Xianyuan Tianzuan again. She looked towards the Black Temple. Countless weapons emitting green light continuously emerged from the pagoda temple, blocking the attacks of the three divine beasts. "You're done?" Xianyuan Tianzuan asked in surprise. "They chose to surrender," Xie Daoling answered. Xianyuan Tianzuan released his inner sight to see the beast saints were obediently standing in the middle of the demon horde, keeping them under control. "Very well, this old Taoist hasn't done anything yet. I'll leave this temple to this old Taoist," Xianyuan Tianzuan said. He tapped his inventory bag and carefully took out a blank yellow talisman. Biting his finger, Xianyuan Tianzuan used his blood to draw mystical runes on the yellow talisman. When he was done, he grabbed the yellow talisman and began to fold it. His hands were very nimble, his movements smooth and practiced. In just a few breaths worth of time, he had already folded the talisman into a mountain. Xianyuan Tianzuan flicked the yellow talisman into the air and threw it out. The mountain peak immediately flew away from his finger and silently floated above the Black Pagoda Temple. "Change!" Xianyuan Tianzuan chanted a hand seal. In a flash, the yellow talisman disappeared. What replaced it was a huge blue mountain that blocked out the sun. Taoism divine skill, mountain breaker. The huge mountain only stayed in the air for a few breaths worth of time. Then, following Xianyuan Tianzuan's hand seal, it crashed down. Heaven and earth shook. The stars disappeared. The sun and moon lost their light. The demons and human cultivators all collapsed, unable to stand up for a long time. Under the intense impact, the entire Black Temple was buried at the bottom of the mountain. Xianyuan Tianzuan took out another blank yellow talisman, still writing mystical runes with his blood. After he finished, he lightly touched the yellow talisman and shouted, "Demon suppression." The yellow talisman flew towards the mountain and sank into it. Heaven and earth went silent for a moment. Suddenly, billions of screams and screams pierced through the mountain, resounding across the sky. The screams were so painful and tragic, as if they've been through all the torture in the world, unable to endure it any longer. Fresh blood seeped out of the mountain and dyed the entire mountain a stinking red. Rumble, rumble, rumble. As the mountain broke apart, the Black Temple turned into a streak of light, about to fly to the sky. "Just you wait, I'll definitely bring billions of Tiamat back to kill you." An indistinct voice filled with deep hatred rang out from the Black Pagoda Temple. Hearing that, Xianyuan Tianzuan coldly laughed. "You destroyed my mountain and still want to run?" He tapped his inventory bag, took out a jade flute, and put to his lips. The murderous sound of the flute was heard. Listening to the sound of the flute, the 100 Flowers fairy suddenly sighed. "It's been so many years since I last heard it." The song of the mountain god left behind from the Age of Legends. Following the sound of the flute, the blue mountain suddenly turned into a giant hand that rose from the ground, grabbing towards the sky. The Black Temple was already flying fast enough, but it couldn't outrun the speed of the earth. Chapter 229. The giant arm slowly pulled back, wrapping around the Black Temple and dragged it deeper into the ground. "No!" A shrill and unwilling voice resounded from inside the temple. The temple tried its best to fly towards the sky, but the hand formed from the earth grabbed onto the temple and pulled it down. While the two sides were in a stalemate, countless weapons once again appeared from the Black Temple, burning with green flames as they slashed towards the giant hand formed from the mountain. Under the attacks of the weapons, the giant hand was quickly disappearing, about to break in half. Seeing that, Xianyuan Tianzuan silently circulated his spirit energy to play the jade flute. The sound of the flute became louder and louder, as if it was piercing through space itself. The boundless earth slowly moved. Countless rocks and dirt rose up from the ground, chasing after the giant hand and patching the broken parts of the hand back together. The green flame weapons were still attacking the giant hand, while the earth kept patching up. The two sides were in a stalemate, unable to determine a winner. A layer of sweat slowly appeared on Xianyuan Tianzuan's forehead as the sound of the flute slowed down. Xie Dao Ling glanced at him, then suddenly said, "I'll help you." Lightly tapping the ground, her graceful body turned into a streak of light and flew straight into the sky. Very quickly, she went past the giant hand, went past the black temple, and flew even higher up into the sky. Xie Dao Ling stopped in the middle of the intense wind, staring down at the black temple below. "The three of us are using everything we have. If we still can't stop you, wouldn't that be a joke?" she muttered. Lowering her body, Xie Dao Ling turned into a falling meteor. Her falling speed was so fast, and it was still accelerating. In the end, only a faint emerald green shadow could be seen. The green shadow was quickly diving down from the sky. The endless martial thaumaturgy power was almost solid, slowly gathering around the green shadow and manifesting into a single thing. It was a gigantic humanoid monster. To be exact, it couldn't be considered humanoid because its face was barely recognizable as a human face, but its body was that of a long snake. This was a mythical creature from the age of old, but Xie Dao Ling used some kind of secret technique to manifest its figure. The humanoid monster seemed to be filled with endless anger, tightly wrapping the green shadow around it as it charged straight towards the Black Temple. The Black Temple seemed to have noticed something wasn't right, as a figure tried to fly away. "Where do you think you're going?" The emerald green silhouette shouted softly. She suddenly accelerated again and disappeared from the sky. Divine skill, ground shrink. In a split second, the emerald green figure appeared once again and directly imprinted itself on the figure that was trying to escape. Then, it brought the figure along and crashed into the Black Pagoda Temple. There was no movement. There were no moves. There was no back-and-forth attack and defense. There were no attacks aimed at vital points. The power of the 10,000 martial thaumaturgy turned into a collision. Martial path, divine skill, unbreakable mountain range. Bang! An invisible wave swept across the sky. The earth-shattering sound of the collision was like a thunderclap, resounding through the clouds. Under this ferocious collision, the entire Black Pagoda Temple, along with the giant earth hand, turned into millions of fragments, completely disintegrating. They danced and fell from the sky. The formless heavenly demon, Holy King's body was broken in half, barely stopping in the air. In the next moment, it tried its best to roll and fly, chasing after the lower half of its body that was falling. This can't be right. How could there be such a powerful, sainted realm cultivator? It spat out a mouthful of green blood, screaming in panic. But Xianyuan Tianzuan was already waiting for her to appear. The murderous sound of the flute resounded again. The earth once again reached out a mountain-like arm, straight up to the sky, grabbing the formless heavenly demon, Holy King, in its hand. No matter how much the formless heavenly demon, Holy King, struggled, the arm quickly retracted, sinking deep into the ground. Xianyuan Tianzuan continued to play the flute without stopping. The earth continued to shake, as if something was desperately struggling. In the intense west wind, the murderous sound of the flute slowly drifted towards the human and demon armies. Under the sound of the flute, every living being was as silent as a cicada in winter, unable to even move a single inch. After half an incense stick's worth of time, the earth finally stopped shaking. Xianyuan Tianzuan finally put down the flute. He spoke with a tired expression. "It's dead." The 100 Flowers fairy had already landed next to him, nodded. "You've worked hard." She swung her sleeve, releasing the great monk of sorrow. The three of them stood side by side, high up in the sky, looking down at the earth below. "We've won." Xianyuan Tianzuan sighed in relief. Ba. It wasn't easy, but we've finally won." The great monk of sorrow also spoke. "A win is a win," Xie Dao Ling smiled. "The demon lord and the other powerful demons aren't here. We only managed to win by taking advantage of the situation. We can't be too arrogant, and we definitely can't let our guard down for the next period of time." Hearing that, the second saint felt a chill down his spine. "Let's go. We'll go down to see the Bee Saints before returning to humanity's camp." saying so. Xie Dao Ling flew down. A few hours later, the remaining 100 or so spirit beasts were captured. They had been possessed by the Tianma for a few dozen years. So now that the Tianma was dead, the spirit beasts all lost their sanity and went berserk, biting anyone they saw. The great monk of sorrow carefully investigated and concluded, if they weren't willing, the Tianma wouldn't have been able to possess them so easily. In other words, this time, the spirit beasts were tempted by the Tianma and agreed to betray humanity. Just like the demon beasts, they wanted to defeat humanity, enslave humanity, and use them as food while they become the masters of this world. Perhaps they were also victims, because the longer they were possessed by the Tianma, the more their sanity would be affected. But they didn't know this at all. Humanity's camp. All the great cultivators were gathered in one place, sitting on top of the command platform. Below the platform, the cultivators were all smiling happily, celebrating the victory of the decisive battle. Wu Xingwen stood up and began to count his military achievements. He didn't participate in the previous battle, but the exhaustion on his face was much heavier than anyone else's. The Tianma had infiltrated his thoughts and manipulated his thoughts. Just thinking about it made him feel goosebumps all over his body. Fortunately, the great monk of sorrow was an expert in dealing with the Tianma, so he only needed a single strike to kill it. Otherwise, if the Tianma went berserk, would have dragged him down with it. Zhen Wei, Chaplain Li Cha. Meritorious service in investigating the enemy. Meritorious service in slaying demons. Accumulated meritorious service. Now promoted to Zhao Wu Chaplain Centurion Sun Ming. Meritorious service in slaying demons. Accumulated meritorious service. Now promoted to 1,000 Cavalry Captain Soldier Wang, F.A. Meritorious service in saving his comrades. Accumulated meritorious service. Now promoted to Chief 10. As he continued to read, he didn't know that the three saints were looking at him with complicated gazes. Yu General Ning Yuechan, Wu Xingwen read the Jade tag in his hand, participated in the decisive battle secret mission, meritorious service, now promoted to Ding Yuan General, humanity's fourth Ding Yuan General. Chapter 230. Ning Yuechan was a bit surprised, glancing at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan was standing behind Hundred Flowers Fairy, smiling as she sent her voice. This is the will of the saints. I didn't do anything, Ning Yuechan answered. How did you not do anything? You saved me. Otherwise, if I died, how would the saints know about the inside story? Gu Qingshan answered. Ning Yuechan thought about it. But since you've been promoted, you'll have to treat me to a meal later, he added. Sure, Ning Yuechan answered. Then you'll cook for me. Gu Qingshan didn't take it lying down. Do you want me to feed you? Ning Yuechan squinted her eyes. Aha! No need. I'm just joking. Gu Qingshan's inner sight quickly retracted. Ning Yuechan was a bit annoyed. The other Ding Yuan General, Monk Ming Hui, asked, what kind of secret mission was it? And who was the one who saved them, to receive such a great merit? Wu Xingwen answered, it's a mission to find out the truth behind the spirit beast betrayal. Monk Hui showed an expression of understanding and didn't ask anymore. In this ambush, the demons either died or surrendered. It could be said that the outcome was decided in a single battle, completely out of everyone's expectations. If Ning Yuechan really did participate in a mission related to the spirit beasts, no one would have anything to say if he was promoted. Wu Xing, when continued, Zhao Wu Chaplain Lung Tian Xing participated in the final battle's secret mission, contributed greatly in finding clues. Because of his previous merits, he was promoted to Yu General, another general. The crowd was shocked. It must be the spirit beast betrayal. Only this mission that decided the outcome of the battle could allow Lung Tian Xing to be promoted to general. Lung Tian Xing nodded to Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan also nodded to him. Needless to say, the two of them had a tacit understanding. Wu Xingwen didn't stop until he reached the end, then said, by Hua Sex, Gu Qingshan's matter has been investigated. She was framed by a spirit beast. She didn't try to harm any of her comrades. So she will continue her position. Hearing that, the cultivators silently nodded. Who would have thought that the spirit beast which had always been loyal to him, would lie and betray him. It could only be said that no one had expected this. This person was also unlucky, but after this battle, the injustice on his body should have been washed away. Wu Xing was also secretly regretting. After spending so much effort this time, the other party is still safe and sound, and I even offended by Hua saying it really isn't worth it. Although it was the work of the heavenly demon, he was not completely clean. He had to be more careful in the future. At this moment, someone shouted, "I don't believe it. There must be something wrong with him." The crowd looked over and saw a young man from the Spirit Beast sect. This young man was Li Chuchen's younger brother, Li Douwen. Li Douwen angrily pointed at Gu Qingshan and said, "Do you dare to search my soul?" The crowd was in an uproar. Spirit beasts have already been proven to have betrayed humanity. Gu Qingshan is a saint's direct disciple, and 100 Flowers Fairy still doesn't have a good expression on her face. Under such circumstances, Li Douwen still dares to do such a thing. Does he really not want to live anymore? Wu Xing was also silently cursing. Such a brainless and impulsive young man is easy to use, but as soon as the situation changes, he'll become very troublesome. Sure enough, Bai Hua Saint spoke up. "Why do you want to search his soul?" Xie Dao Ling asked. "He killed my brother." Under the saint's stare, Li Douwen was trembling, but still stubbornly insisted. Spirit Beast sect master and elders all came forward, wanting to pull him away. 100 Flowers Fairy raised her hand and lightly waved to stop the Spirit Beast sect people. "It's fine, let him stand here. This saint was about to ask him about this," Xie Dao Ling said. "It's over." The Spirit Beast sect people all silently cursed. "It's you, spreading lies and deceiving this general. You should be executed according to military law." Wu Xing took out a talisman and was about to act. "I said let him stand here," Xie Dao Ling coldly said. Wu Xing clenched his teeth, but didn't dare to act rashly. He held the talisman in his hand for a long while before finally pulling it back. The talisman in his hand had already been crushed into pieces. "He killed your brother because he didn't follow military law," Xie Dao Ling looked at Li Douwen and said. "But who can prove it? If he had malicious intentions, who would know?" Li Douwen asked. "He went through the examination of the heart. The cultivators of Yaoguang sect and Heaven's Limit sect also went through the examination of the heart. According to humanity's military law, he has passed." Xie Dao Ling continued. "That's definitely not the truth. General Wu already told me. There's definitely something wrong with him." Li Douwen shouted without giving up. As soon as he said that, everyone was shocked. "You're slandering me." Wu Xing went angrily through a talisman. "Don't. General, please calm down." The guard cultivator shouted in panic. "General Wu." The young man opened his eyes wide, looking at Wu Xing in disbelief. "Stop." Spirit Beast sect's master jumped out, blocking in front of the young man, and angrily shouted. At this moment, the entire scene became chaotic. But 100 Flowers Fairy just sat there without moving, only silently watching this. Next to her, Xinyuan Tianzuan couldn't sit still anymore, grabbing the air. The yellow talisman that was flying towards the young man turned around and landed in his hand. "Traitorous disciple, what are you trying to do?" he shouted. Wu Xing stood up straight, angrily shouting, "Master, he's just a little soldier, yet he dares to slander me in front of everyone. He's just a little soldier, yet he dares to slander you?" Xinyuan Tianzuan slowly spoke. He stared at his disciple, his eyes full of disappointment. Xinyuan Tianzuan sighed and ordered, "Men, come. Examination of the heart." 100 Flowers Fairy stayed silent. 2 cultivators came out, standing in front of Wu Xing. The 2 of them clasped their fists. "The saint's orders, General. Please do us a favor." Wu Xing's mouth opened and closed, unable to say anything. He can't ignore Shifu's words, but to tell the truth, the 2 cultivators waited for a bit, exchanged looks, then one of them spoke. "General, please tell us everything from start to finish, so that we can finish our work." Wu Xing struggled to speak. "I feel that Li Chuchen's death is a bit strange." The 2 cultivators nodded. Wu Xing continued. "So, I sent someone to summon Spirit Beast sect's people. Ask them where Li Chu Chen's spirit beast bag is, then believe the spirit beast's words. The two cultivators nodded again. Wu Xing, when continued. So I summoned Gu Qing Shan, as well as spirit beast sex people to have them face to face. The two cultivators stopped, then shook their heads. The way they looked at Wu Xing when changed. One of them turned to the three saints and reported. General is lying. Xian Yuan Tianzun's expression was grim. He sighed, asking, My disciple, do you know why the Tianma entered your thought sea, while Gongsun Ji and Ming Hui were still safe? Your disciple doesn't know, Wu Xingwen answered. Because your heart wasn't righteous. You wanted to harm others. This became an obsession in your heart, giving the Tianma a chance. As one of humanity's 3 Ding Yuan generals, you were taken advantage of by the Tianma. If you didn't notice it in time, not only would you have died, many more human cultivators would have died. Chapter 231. Xian Yuan Tianzun's expression wasn't very good. According to causality, this time, if it wasn't for Gu Qing Shan discovering the truth and preparing a counterattack, he would have been sent to the Tianma realm and died. This is a huge debt of karma, but his own disciples still tried to frame him. Although it was the Tianma's doing, if Wu Xingwen didn't have such intentions, the Tianma wouldn't have been able to do anything. It was because of his bad intentions and evil intentions that the Tianma was able to infiltrate his thought sea. What happened afterwards, even if it was the Tianma's doing, Wu Xingwen still couldn't escape the blame. If he doesn't handle this well, Xian Yuan Tianzun's own Dao heart will have problems. Thinking that, Xian Yuan Tianzun took out a black talisman and threw it out. Stick it on your forehead, he spoke in a low voice. Wu Xingwen caught the talisman, looked at his Shifu's expression, gritted his teeth, and stuck the talisman on his forehead. Xian Yuan Tianzun lightly touched the talisman from afar and said, Quick! The black talisman turned into a mist and went into Wu Xingwen's ears. Wu Xingwen's eyes lost their focus, blankly standing on the platform. Soul, search talisman? 100 Flowers Fairy asked. My Blue Cloud sect always does things in the open. If there's any crime, we'll show it to everyone and deal with it accordingly, Xian Yuan Tianzun answered. 100 Flowers Fairy nodded in satisfaction. Ask again, Xian Yuan Tianzun said to the two cultivators in charge of questioning their minds. Yes, the two cultivators didn't dare to hesitate, hurriedly walked up and asked again. What did you do about Gu Qing Shan? Wu Xingwen blankly answered. Spirit Beast Sex Li Dao 1, young and naive, angry at his brother's death. I used words to slander Gu Qing Shan's reputation. Hearing that, Li Dao 1 was a bit surprised. From the very beginning, something seemed to have gone wrong. To me, this was just something I wanted to do, but after thinking about it, my mind became clouded, unable to judge anything Wu Xingwen blankly said. In my stupor, thoughts kept popping up in my mind, manipulating my actions until I couldn't stop myself, slowly forgetting about the final battle and started to plan a way to kill him. The cultivators all sighed as they heard that. Wu Xingwen wanted to ruin his reputation, but was taken advantage by the Tianzun demon, causing the entire camp to isolate Gu Qing Shan. Luckily, the 3 saints arrived, so he couldn't carry out the follow-up plan. As matters stood, not only had he been taken advantage of by the heavenly demons, but his master had even searched his soul, causing him to lose all standing and reputation. He couldn't blame anyone else for this cause and effect. He could only blame himself for reaping what he sowed. Li Duan stared blankly at this scene and murmured, Why? Why did you lie to me? Shen Shifu, Shantali, Gu Qing Shan God that his brother was, he was Wu Qing Shan Zunli was killed. Heli Li 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 Shun, Nield Li 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 Tian, Tian Tian XT, Li Li Shun Xian Tian Tian's Qi, Tian, Wu Wu. Only now did Wu Xingwen wake up. He knew everything that happened just now, but he couldn't stop himself from saying it out loud. This time, I'm really done for. He stood alone on the platform. All the cultivators looked at him. Their previous admiration and respect turned into cold stares. The final battle is right around the corner, yet he's only thinking about slandering others. How can such thoughts convince the masses? Wu Xingwen felt his heart slowly falling into the abyss. Xianyuan Tianzuan didn't even bother to look at him anymore, turned to ask Hundred Flowers Fairy, "What do you think we should do?" Hundred Flowers Fairy looked at Monk of Sorrow and said, "I'm not familiar with military law. Whatever you say goes, Ba. He's no longer fit to be a general." Monk of Sorrow spoke with a serious expression. "I think we can follow military law, strip him of his general rank, and start anew as a soldier." Seeing how Hundred Flowers Fairy was about to raise her eyebrows, Monk of Sorrow quickly added, "Furthermore, slandering a saint's disciple, causing him to suffer humiliation, he should receive another 300 lashes." Hundred Flowers Fairy's beautiful eyebrows finally smoothed out. 300 lashes, all of them infused with spirit energy. The person being whipped has to take off their shirt, not allowed to use any techniques to resist. If they resist, they'll be punished with 10 lashes. Not only does the person being whipped have no dignity, but they also have to endure physical pain. Although this punishment is relatively light and didn't take Wu Xingwen's life, it completely took away his dignity as a cultivator. Hundred Flowers Fairy was satisfied with Xianyuan Tianzuan's attitude, so she handed the matter over to Monk of Sorrow. This way, they're completely relying on military law. There won't be any direct conflict between the two saints. Both sides won't lose face. This kind of punishment doesn't take Wu Xingwen's life, taking Xianyuan Tianzuan's feelings into consideration and allowing Hundred Flowers Fairy to sigh in relief. Sure enough, as Xianyuan Tianzuan heard this, his expression softened a bit. Xie Daoling then turned around and asked Gu Qingshan, "What do you think?" Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then said, "I want to talk to him for a bit," Go Xie Daoling said. In front of the three saints, in front of all the cultivators present, Gu Qingshan walked in front of Wu Xingwen and stopped. Wu Xingwen scoffed, glaring at Gu Qingshan. "Damn it, it's all this brat's fault. Are you here to humiliate me?" He lowered his voice, glaring at Gu Qingshan. Gu Qingshan answered, "No, I'm here to ask you something. It's already come to this. What else do you want to ask?" Gu Qingshan stared straight at Wu Xingwen and asked, "As a Ding Yuan general, during the decisive war between humans and demons, you try to go against a single person like me. Do you think you did the right thing?" Wu Xingwen stared at her deeply, gritting his teeth. "I am the eldest brother of Blue Cloud's Pass, and my junior brother was killed by you during the semester examination." Gu Qingshan didn't avoid his gaze and spoke very seriously. "During the entire semester examination, my Baihua sect was only a spectator, but Li Chang'an incited a dozen people to not only go against me, but also humiliate my sect. Whose fault was that?" Wu Xingwen didn't say anything. "If you really cared about your junior brother, you should have cared for him while he was still alive, taught him by example, taught him how to be a person, taught him not to ruin the reputation of other sects." Gu Qingshan met his gaze and spoke. "You were the eldest brother of your sect, but you didn't take good care of your own junior brother, allowing him to be arrogant, humiliating the reputation of other sects, causing him to die in the end. Isn't that your responsibility?" Gu Qingshan slowly spoke. "Before your junior brother died, you didn't teach him well at all. After he died, you tried to frame him for your own benefit, even thinking that you were taking revenge for your junior brother as the head disciple of the sect. Do you really think that I'm the one at fault here, and not you?" Wu Xingwen was stunned, unable to say anything for a while. Gu Qingshan shook her head and walked back. Her lips curled up a bit, but then felt that it was a bit inappropriate, so she quickly straightened her face. She ordered, "Men, execute him." Following her order, Wu Xingwen was stripped of his general armor by 2 enforcer cultivators and carried away to be executed. The whip continued to swing. In front of everyone, Wu Xingwen was being punished. Chapter 232. Towards Wu Xingwen screams and screams. The Hundred Flowers Fairy didn't seem to hear it at all. She smiled at the great Monk of Sorrow and Xianyuan Tianzuan, asking, "I'll do it." The great Monk of Sorrow replied, Ba, benefactor Xie, then we'll have to trouble you." Xianyuan Tianzuan also nodded. Xie Daoling then stood up, walked up the platform, and spoke to the cultivators in the camp. The reason why we won this war was all because of a single person's plan. The rewards for this war haven't been given to him yet. So I'll talk about this, it's here. The cultivators all silently muttered. Just how did they win this war? Everyone was confused, and a big question mark was drawn in their hearts. Before the final war, right as they were about to leave, the three saints suddenly came and said that they wanted to find the traitor of humanity. After that, everyone went through the main tent in the camp. They only remembered that as soon as they entered the camp, the world around them spun, and they found themselves in a small world. There, Xinyuan Tianzuan and the Great Monk of Sorrow personally arranged their tactics and missions, telling everyone to be ready and fight as soon as they leave. When they reappeared, they found themselves near Demon Cloud's river. Not too far away, the demons and spirit beasts were all either dead or wounded. Everyone was silently surprised, but didn't have time to think too much. They could only follow the three saints' orders and quickly prepare for battle. After that, the three saints personally fought against the Tianma, and the demon race surrendered. Everyone only had to control the large-scale war formation to attack a beast saint a few times, then watch the great battle between the three saints and the Tianma. The war was won just like that. Not a single person was injured. Not a single person died. They won just like that. Everyone couldn't believe it. It wasn't until after the war was over that the spirit beast's betrayal became widely known. The cultivators sucked in a breath of cold air. If this was on the battlefield, when they were fighting against the demons and the spirit beast suddenly ambushed them from behind, the consequences would be unimaginable. Who in the world discovered this shocking secret? If they didn't discover such an important piece of information, humanity would have most likely lost this war under the ambush of the demons and spirit beasts. And also, how did the saints manage to win? There were clearly 13 beast saints on the demon race's side. This number had always been a headache for the three sages. Why was it suddenly solved today? These matters were like mysteries that tickled the hearts of the cultivators, and they wished for nothing more than to know the truth. But no one dared to take the initiative to ask the three saints. Now, 100 Flowers Fairy was finally going to tell the whole story. Under the expectant gazes of the cultivators, the 100 Flowers Fairy smiled and spoke. One person managed to discover the truth behind the betrayal of the spirit beasts after infiltrating the demon realm. The crowd buzzed and began to discuss. As expected, it was this matter. 100 Flowers Fairy continued. This person proposed his own strategy for the final battle. His tactical arrangement, after being discussed by me, Xinyuan Tianzuan, and the Great Monk of Sorrow, we all agreed that it was the perfect tactical arrangement. As for the results of this tactical arrangement, everyone has seen it. 6 demon saints have gone to another world and will never be able to return. Several tens of thousands of spirit beasts, as well as over 100,000 demons, fell into our ambush. All of them were either killed or wounded. Only a few were left, unable to fight against humanity anymore. At this point, 100 Flowers Fairy paused a bit, then continued. But when I arrived at the front lines, I found out that he was accused of bullying the weak, using excuses to kill, and was isolated by everyone. An uproar took place among the cultivators. Obviously, the smarter cultivators already knew who 100 Flowers Fairy was talking about, but they still couldn't believe it. Then 100 Flowers Fairy spoke. Shaoqi Chaplain Gu Qing here under everyone's watchful eyes. Gu Qing once again stepped forward. You exposed the truth behind the betrayal of the spirit beasts and saved the cultivators of the various sects. This is a great merit. You also came up with a plan to help us three deceive the world, forcing the demon race to reap what they sow, killing 6 beast saints in one fell swoop. This is a great merit. In this battle, your performance has proven that you are a talented general. You've accumulated 2 merits, exceeding the requirement for a chaplain. 100 Flowers Fairy paused a bit, looking at her disciple, very pleased. She declared, after our discussion, we've decided to promote you to UG General. Yes, men, grant him the golden armor and change his badge. Thank you, Saint. Following the conversation between 100 Flowers Fairy and Gu Qing, the entire camp went into an uproar. It was him, so he was the one who did all of this. Everyone carefully thought about it, then realized No wonder the spirit beasts wanted to slander him. The Tiamat must have already found out. He must have found out the truth. But Wu Xingwen didn't know anything about this, and even cooperated with the spirit beasts to suppress him. If Gu Qingshan didn't tell the saint about the betrayal of the spirit beasts, quite a few people rubbed their waists, imagining the scene of the spirit beasts suddenly jumping out and attacking them. That scene would be terrifying. Just like that, they owe him a huge favor. Those who still couldn't believe it all looked at the other two saints. The great monk of sorrow and Xianyuan Tinzuan both smiled, nodding approvingly. No one had any more doubts. If the two saints reacted like that, then this couldn't have been a master-disciple show of Baihua sect. When the cultivators looked at Gu Qingshan again, their eyes changed. Some were relieved, some were ashamed, and of course, some were thinking about how to apologize. Cultivation is a cultivation of the heart. Even though I was deceived, but it's still wrong of me to mock him like that. If I don't do anything, my Tao heart won't be smooth, which won't benefit me at all. Desperate screams came from the execution ground. At first, there were still some people whispering in sympathy, but now, no one mentions Wu Xingwen anymore. It was as if the man and his screams had all disappeared. Very well, I'll now announce 2 things 100 Flowers Fairy said. First, from now on, all spirit beasts must swear on their inner demons before they can be used by humanity. If there are any spirit beasts that aren't willing to swear on their inner demons, they are not allowed to interact with humanity. Those who violate this rule will be killed. Everyone was shocked, but no one dared to say anything. No explanation, no unnecessary words, only the word kill. This was by Hua Saint style. Second, everyone is to rest here. 3 days later, she stopped, waiting for everyone to go silent. A few cultivators gulped nervously, while others stared at her without saying a word. The entire camp quickly went silent. No one said anything, no one even moved. Everyone was silent. Xie Daoling's gaze swept through the entire camp, raised her voice, and declared, "We are about to attack Shun Wu world." Chapter 233. Night. Gu Qingshan was sitting in his tent. In front of him was a jade tag, a set of golden armor, and 2 quivers of black arrows. The jade tag came from the great monk of sorrow, a gift to thank him for his plan. Gu Qingshan suggested the 100 Flowers Fairy to turn into the 3 saints to lure venerable Xian's trap. If not for that, even the great monk of sorrow would have fallen for it and been sent to the Tiamat realm. After all, venerable Xian had already planned for this day to come, while the 3 saints didn't know anything about what was about to happen. Gu Qingshan picked up the jade tag. A line of glowing text appeared on the War God UI. Discovered the Great God Protection Secret Art. Would you like to spend 30 soul points to learn it? Gu Qingshan pondered, considering whether or not to learn it. According to the great monk of sorrow, after learning this technique, both the heretic Tiamat and all other hypnotic charms will have no way to take advantage of them. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then chose yes. Great God Protection Secret Art has been learned. Remaining soul points, 270. Immediately, a warm flow came from the jade tag, flowed into Gu Qingshan's hand, and returned to his thought sea. Gu Qingshan immediately understood the secret behind this technique. Techniques that can protect the soul vessel from temptation and resist the Tianma's manipulation are very rare. Normally, only Buddhists would have such techniques. This time, if I didn't make such a great contribution, if the great monk of sorrow didn't always like to help his juniors, I wouldn't have been able to learn this technique. How miraculous! He muttered. This technique, after learning it, doesn't need to be used normally. Only when the soul vessel is attacked, or when a Tianma approaches, will this technique automatically activate. Once this technique is activated, as long as a Tianma approaches, or a soul-luring technique is used, the technique will activate the Great God Protection Secret Art to protect the caster's soul vessel from being attacked. This is a form of protection. Gu Qingshan was very pleased with this. He looked at the golden armor again. This set of golden armor consisted of a breastplate, shoulder guards, arm guards, gauntlets, belt, knee pads, and combat boots. They were all brand new, of excellent quality and moderate thickness. No matter what kind of weapon was used to hit it, it would not leave any marks. Among the set of armor, Gu Shan even saw a silver mask. When he first met Ning Yuechan, he saw her wearing a silver armor like this. Gu Shan had thought that it belonged to Ning Yuechan, but now it seemed that it was one of the general's armor sets. He held the silver armor in his hand and waited. The silver armor visor was as thin as a cicada's wing and extremely light. When he squeezed it with his hand, the visor didn't budge at all. Even his divine sense couldn't penetrate it. Good stuff, he praised. This was a piece of UG general-grade equipment. Every piece of golden armor was covered in runes, but if one looked closely, the runes would disappear from time to time, and nothing could be seen. This set of armor wasn't cheap at all. To make a single one, it would take 5 to 6 master smiths working for 3 months straight to complete. This armor can greatly increase a cultivator's defense. On the battlefield, defense is life. A sword cultivator already has a lot of killing power, so if they have this armor, they can ignore defense and only use their full strength to attack. For a sword cultivator's enemy, this is a very scary thing. Next to the golden armor were 2 quivers full of black arrows. They were all demon-slaying arrows. After Gu Shan went to the general's armory to take a look, he found that most of the general's weapons weren't bad, but none of them were better than the Earth Sword and the Night Rain. Those weapons were mostly at least spirit tools. But the Earth Sword in my hand has an ancient inheritance. According to Shifu, it still hasn't fully unleashed its power. The Night Rain was also about passed down from Ning Yuechan's ancestor. Not only is it unparalleled in power, it also has a special meaning. Gu Shan doesn't want to change either of these weapons, so he asked for 2 quivers of demon-slaying arrows. Armor and arrows. Gu Shan was very satisfied. But more importantly, Gu Shan opened the War God UI and looked at his quest. Destiny Quest, Decisive Battle 1. Quest Objective. Only by standing high enough will you have enough influence to influence this decisive battle. You must raise your military rank to Zhao Wu Chaplain during the first half of the battle. If the quest fails, the reward will be taken back. The user will not be able to raise their cultivation for the next 3 years. After reading through the quest description again, he turned into a streak of light and disappeared. What replaced it was a line of glowing text. You've completed the Destiny Quest, Decisive Battle 1. For now, you still have a right to use War God title until the quest is completed. Because you've completed the quest more than enough, you've gained a lot of reputation during the battle. You've gained a new title. Because you've completed the quest more than enough, the amount of time you can stay in reality has increased to 7 days. Note, after 7 days, when you return to the cultivation world, you will return to the moment you left. Gu Shan ignored the last part and quickly clicked on the War God title icon. The name of War God resounds across the world, spreading to every corner of the world. Your title is the manifestation of your will. User Gu Shan, current titles. 3. Attention, you can only equip 1 title at a time. Title 1, 15 Sword, personal title. Description. On the day of the semester examination, you sent 15 top 15 cultivators flying with a single strike. So the name Sword 15 has spread among the newcomers of various sects. Equipping this title grants you the unique skill. Sound Shock, primary. Sound Shock, primary during the attack. The weapon will interfere with the enemy's soul vessel. Title 2. UG General. Note. Shao Qi Chaplain title has been overwritten. Description. This is the 4th highest military rank in the human Allied Army. Equipping this title grants you the unique skill, Quick Attack, Intermediate. Quick Attack, Intermediate. The user's attack speed is increased by 15%. Title 3. The Talent of a General. Description. Because you were able to grasp the development of the war, you took the chance to create a strategy to lure the enemy in, thus heavily injuring the demons and laying the foundation for victory. One of the 3 saints of the world, the 100 Flowers Fairy, praised you in front of everyone as having the talent of a general. This evaluation was acknowledged by all cultivators in the world. Equipping this title grants you the unique skill. Rampaging Sword Chi. Rampaging Sword Chi. An innumerable amount of fine sword chi drifts around your sword. Whenever you activate this skill, the sword chi will manifest into a shadow and perform an additional attack. Note, this title skill can only be used when using swords. Looking at the two title skills, Gu Shan couldn't help but click her tongue. Rampaging Sword Chi is extremely powerful, and Quick Attack is even more so. With his current level of swordsmanship, whether it's an additional attack or a 15% increase in attack speed, the effects are both shocking. Even Shao Qi Chaplain's title skill that increases attack speed by 10% was enough for Gu Shan to instantly kill Flame Cloud chasing Sky Crane, let alone Yu Ji General's title skill, which increases attack speed by 15%. For a powerful sword cultivator, even a slight increase in attack speed can change the outcome of a battle. Chapter 234. Gu Shan thought for a bit, then changed the title to Talented General. Drawing his sword, he infused it with spirit energy. A misty mist lingered around the sword. This mist was made up of fragmented sword chi. It surrounded the body of the long sword and completely enveloped it. Gu Shan swung his sword, then quickly used Kai Shan style. As he swung his sword, the sword mist followed him closely. That way, the enemy won't be able to see where the sword is and won't be able to accurately judge Gu Shan's attack. What an unexpected gain, Gu Shan muttered. Raising his sword, he suddenly thrust forward. When the strike was about to end, he suddenly used Rampaging Sword Chi. The mist around the sword turned into a sword phantom. Following the first thrust, he thrust forward a second time. Not bad. It's a good skill to be able to catch people off guard, Gu Shan commented. After trying it out, he switched to the title of Yu Ji General. The mist around the sword disappeared. After sensing it for a bit, Gu Shan swung his sword, using the full set of wind/style. Inside the tent, the only thing that could be seen was Gu Shan's figure constantly moving, while the sword in his hand turned into an indiscernible shadow, giving the illusion that the sword didn't exist at all. Even the air itself couldn't handle it. Wherever the sword went, the air would be cut apart, letting out a shrill scream. This was the effect of the sword being too fast. Gu Shan put his sword away. The entire tent returned to silence. Gu Shan smiled. He was very pleased with the title skill. He looked at the War God UI again. Ever since the title skill was updated, the UI hasn't changed. That's strange. Decisive Battle 1 is obviously half a quest, but it's already completed, but the second half of the quest is still nowhere to be seen. Could it be that I have to wait until the corresponding situation triggers the relevant conditions for the second half of the quest to appear? That should be the case. That time should be when the cultivators of the cultivation world attack Shenwu World. 3 days later, Gu Shan looked at the hourglass. In a few more minutes, the hourglass would be empty. He sat in silence for a while. With a flash of light, he disappeared from the cultivation world. Heavy rain. The rain poured down in torrents. A hand reached out from the pile of corpses by the roadside. A sword phantom came, falling into the pile of corpses and killed the man-killer fiend that hadn't climbed out yet. Gu Shan held her sword and silently raised her head. There was no wind between heaven and earth. Boundless dark clouds hung low in the sky, and heavy rain poured down. The entire city was quiet. Only the sound of rainwater hitting the buildings could be heard. Gu Shan stretched out her hand and caught the rainwater, staring at it blankly. Just standing in the rain for a few breaths, Gu Shan's entire body was drenched. However, he didn't seem to feel it. He just stared at the rainwater in his hand. It was rain. It's raining. Gu Shan's heart sank. He opened the War God UI and glanced at the notifications. It was blank. Before, you told me to hide from the world's space-time changes. Now that I've returned, what changes are there? He asked. Ping. The War God UI replied. Changes have been completed, but up until now, the War God UI has not found any storyline triggers. Gu Shan went silent for a bit. Suddenly, a small-sized shuttle descended from the sky and landed in front of him. The door opened. There was no one inside. Sir, the rain isn't good for your body. Impartial goddess voice came. Thank you for your concern, but I want to ask, has anything strange happened in this world? Sea monsters continue to come ashore, destroying coastal cities. Man-killer fiends continue to grow stronger. Every country in the world is gathered at the Federation to discuss. What else? St. Orlanc's empire has split. The Revolutionary Army, Royalists, and the Holy Church are fighting for themselves. What else? The rest are things that Sir Gu Qingshan isn't interested in. What I'm asking is, has anything new or unimaginable happened in this world? No abnormalities have been discovered. Gu Qingshan paused for a bit. He let go of the rein in his hand, sighed, and quickly entered the cabin. The door quickly closed. The small-sized shuttle took to the sky and flew far away. Inside the shuttle, a new set of clean clothes was neatly stacked on the pilot's seat with a glass of fruit juice next to it. Kiwi fruit mixed with orange juice, Sir's favorite flavor. Thank you. Gu Qingshan changed his clothes, sat on the pilot's seat, and fell into thought. Following the rain, the unstoppable apocalypse was slowly approaching. But from the current situation, what happened in the past life won't happen in the same order in this life. Then what exactly is it? Nothing is happening right now, and the apocalypse is also different from the past life. Since he doesn't know what will happen next, he can only wait. If World Apocalypse Online descends half a year earlier, Gu Qingshan would naturally welcome it with open arms. Ever since his return, in just a few short days, Gu Qingshan has already experienced too much. A single person wanting to fight against the invasion of countless demons is nothing but a fool's dream. If everyone can enter the cultivation world, that would be the best news of all. How are Yifei Li and Zhang Yongho doing? He asked. A screen turned on to show the scene of a certain place. Yifei Li, Zhang Yongho, as well as an unfamiliar man were sitting around a table with a sumptuous dinner on it. Gu Qingshan looked at the unfamiliar man. He had a square face, a full beard, and an old-fashioned smoking pipe in his hand. He ate very slowly. His movements were calm and elegant, just like a top-notch aristocrat. This was a handsome old man, but his eyes were too sharp, ruining the image of a gentleman that his appearance gave him. Pah, pah, this chicken is too spicy. Damn it, don't you have anything sweet? The man suddenly cursed. As soon as he said that, his overall impression of him crumbled. Gu Qingshan scowled and asked, "Who is this?" Liao Xing, scientist, inventor of warp technology. Why doesn't he look the same as I remember? You ordered me to give him a plastic surgery when he comes back. I remember now, but how did it end up like this? The difference is too big. He drew the portrait himself. Fine. When he returned, you weren't here, so I sent him there, As Gu Qingshan said that, she heard a conversation from the screen. Bro, why are you wearing sunglasses while eating? The chicks don't like that kind of look. Liao Xing glared at the young man in front of him. Hearing that, Yifei Li took off his sunglasses, revealing his bloodshot eyes. Because I'm a man-killer fiend, he put his sunglasses aside and focused on eating the lobster. Oh my god! Liao Xing was shocked, quickly looking at Zhang Yongho. Zhang Yongho shrugged, expressing that he didn't have anything to say. Liao Xing quickly calmed down, muttering in thought. Man-killer fiend, the boss of a hitman organization, the brat who hacked Impartial Goddess, and me, a warp bomb expert. Chapter 235. Zhang Yongho scowled. That's not it. Please be quiet when you're eating. You're giving me a headache. Fine, fine. You're one of the investors. Whatever you say. Liao Xing went silent, still staring at Yifei Li, his eyes evaluating her from top to bottom. After a while, he couldn't help but ask, do man-killer fiends still need to eat? Yifei Li didn't mind and answered, eating won't fill my hunger. Only killing will, but I still have a sense of taste. He put down his utensils and wiped his mouth. I eat these things because they're delicious, and I couldn't afford them before. You're a good young man. Liao Xing's eyes rolled a bit, asking, I like people like you. How about you come with me? Yifei Li answered, you're not qualified? Bullshit. I'm the Federation's #1 scientist. How am I not qualified to be friends with you? Yifei Li glanced at him, shaking his head with a look of disdain. At this point, the hollow brain in his chest pocket lit up as an electronic voice came. Target spotted, 357 kilometers southeast, moving towards the capital. Hearing that, Yi Fei Li grabbed half a lobster from the table and left. A pair of fearsome bone spikes suddenly sprouted from his back. "What are you doing?" Liao Xing looked at the terrifying bone spikes and asked anxiously. "I'm going to fill my hunger," saying so. Yi Fei Li walked to the window, turned into a red streak of light, and flew away. "Who is Yi Fei Li going to deal with?" Gu Qingshan asked. "The man-killer fiend that's spreading the plague," Impartial Goddess answered. "That's right, it's time to deal with it. Otherwise more and more people will die," Gu Qingshan agreed. "Sir, where are we going now?" Impartial Goddess suddenly asked. "We're going to Zhang Yongho's place. I have something very important to ask you." "Please go ahead, sir," Impartial Goddess replied. Gu Qingshan became nervous. "This rain, is there anything wrong with it?" The other side, Yi Fei Li flew high up in the sky, breaking through layers of dark clouds, and finally landed on a piece of barren land. A skeleton covered in minced meat, exuding a faint yellow mist, was staggering forward. When the skeleton saw him, it stopped. It said in a snake-like voice, "I've already given you the city. Why are you still chasing me? What's the point of giving it to me after you've killed them all?" Yi Fei Li said. The skeleton's voice became sharp. "I've already taken a step back. What else do you want? I don't understand why you're chasing me." It continued, "There are countless creatures in this world that can't be killed. You and I are of the same species with a very high evolutionary level. There's no need to kill each other." "Same kind? Kill each other?" Yi Fei Li tilted her head and tossed the lobster in her hand over. The skeleton subconsciously caught the lobster, glanced at it, and casually threw it on the ground. "What do you mean by giving me such a useless dead thing?" It cautiously asked. Yi Fei Li looked at the lobster on the ground and regretfully said, "Such a delicacy, yet you're ignoring it." He raised his hand. Boundless blood-red light flickered in his palm like a flame. "From the looks of it, we're not the same species." The fearsome bone spikes suddenly flapped. Yi Fei Li smirked and jumped forward. On the small-sized shuttle. "Sir, what are you referring to?" "The effect on this planet, aside from the increase in rain, there's no other increase in rain." Gu Qingshan muttered. "The war god UI doesn't lie. If it says there's an intense change in space-time, then there definitely is." "What exactly is it?" "Rain," Gu Qingshan silently muttered. He suddenly said, "Impartial Goddess, let me see how many places are raining right now." "Please wait a moment. It will take 7 seconds to connect to and retrieve all the weather satellites in the world," Impartial Goddess replied. A screen opened. A world map appeared in front of Gu Qingshan. "Places where it's raining are marked in red," he said. Instantly, the world map was covered in red. Aside from the oceans, many places on the map were marked in red. Only the places where people rarely go are still sunny. The faint red light illuminated Gu Qingshan's face, clearly showing off his nervousness. How could it be normal for all the places where people live to be raining? Seems like I'm not wrong. This rain is indeed the rain of the apocalypse. The best way to infiltrate this world is to use the weather to slowly infuse outside forces into it. Rain is a good choice, as it can permeate through everything all the way to the depths of the earth. Gu Qingshan quickly said, "Contact the weather and biochemistry departments, as well as the corresponding experts. Immediately analyze the rain." "Yes, understood." The screen went dark. The world map disappeared. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then asked, "Are there any changes in the world's temperature?" Impartial Goddess paused for a second, then answered, "There are no obvious fluctuations." Gu Qingshan sighed in relief, then muttered, "Although it's raining, it's not that. Keep an eye on the rain. Once the biochemistry analysis comes out, notify me." "Understood," Impartial Goddess answered. "According to the records, while you were away, someone has requested to meet with you 5 times. Who?" "Sir President, when I wasn't here. Now, it's the 6th time. Seems like it's urgent." "How far are we from each other?" "He's at an airbase in a city on our right, 173 kilometers away from you, sir. Tell him we're going to meet him now," Gu Qingshan said. "Understood." Gu Qingshan has a good impression of the president. This president has always worked for the sake of the Federation, for the sake of the people, both in this life and the past. His actions have earned Gu Qingshan's respect. The small-sized shuttle drew an arc in the rain, heading towards another direction. The location of the meeting was an office. As Gu Shan went through many layers of checks and entered the office, a few aides were sitting on the sofa, discussing something in a low voice. The president was sitting behind a large mahogany desk, working. He was wearing a pair of reading glasses. His back was slightly hunched, both arms propped on the desk, reading a document line by line, occasionally making notes with his pen. Gu Shan noticed that there were a few age spots on the president's face. His back wasn't as straight as it used to be. "Sir President, I'm here," Gu Shan said. The president looked up, recognizing Gu Shan. "You're finally here." He smiled, stood up, and put his glasses back on the desk. "Sir, it seems you're in a hurry to find me," Gu Shan said. "That's right. There's something that I've been thinking about. I still feel like I should listen to your opinion." The president shook her hand and said, "I'm flattered." Gu Shan smiled. The president told his aides, "You can leave first. I have something personal to discuss with him." The aide stood up, smiled at Gu Shan, and left. The door closed. The president visibly calmed down and turned around. "Coffee or tea?" he asked. "There's no need for you to do it yourself. It's fine. I've always wanted to have a meal with you, but I don't have the time. There's always time for a cup of tea. Then tea it is. Very well." The two of them sat down and took a sip of tea. "I know everything you've done," the president said. Gu Shan nodded. "I'm probably the only president in the entire history of the Federation to have his highest authority shared with someone else. I'm sorry. I know, no. Don't misunderstand. I'm not saying this isn't good," the president continued. "This way, I won't be that lonely." Chapter 236. Hope. Gu Shan was a bit doubtful. "That's right. That's how politics is. You can't do whatever you want just because you've become the president. There are too many gains and losses, so the people have to be put aside first. Every party has to prioritize their own benefits. Your political enemies will always oppose you regardless of whether they're right or wrong. So there's always a lot of restraints that you can't escape from, but what you've done has given me hope. You flatter me." After chatting for a bit, the president went straight to the point. "Actually, there's something that I want to ask your opinion on. Please go ahead. I want to open up the genetic modification serum's usage rights." Saying so, the president observed Gu Shan's expression. "Martial potential enhancement serum? I have to say, that's a very wise choice." Gu Shan nodded. "You really think so?" "Of course," Gu Shan answered. "Everyone should have a chance at genetic modification to increase their chances of becoming a professionist. With a martial potential enhancement serum, everyone can at least become a one-star martial artist. This way, when we face the man-eater fiends, our chances of survival will greatly increase." "That's a really good thing," the president continued. "But a lot of people, you know who I'm talking about, they're worried that genetic modification will cause social unrest, that it'll make laws useless." Gu Shan answered. "The Fushi Empire has 3 times as many professionists as we do. Yet the empire is still strong and prosperous without any unrest." He continued. "From the genetic modification serum itself, we have the martial potential enhancement serum. Fushi has the elementalist awakening serum, and the Holy Empire has the God's chosen awakening serum. In other words, even if all of our citizens are injected with the genetic modification serum, the individual strength of our citizens won't be an advantage among the 3 countries. Then, why don't we do it?" He concluded. "You mean you support me in doing this?" the president asked to confirm. "Of course I do. With how tense the situation is right now, this is a good thing for every citizen. But the 9 lords might not be too willing." "Ignore them," the president smiled happily. "There's going to be an international conference to discuss this matter. At that time, all the leaders of the various countries will be there." Gu Shan was a bit interested, asking, "The other countries also want to do this?" "That's right. I want you to tell me about it." "Me?" Gu Shan was taken aback. "That's right. It's no longer a secret. The inventor of the Blazing Angel virus, the discoverer of the man-killer fiend virus. As a scientist, your name is now quite famous. You're quite influential on an international level," the president said. "As a scientist, it's more useful for you to talk about the pros and cons than a bunch of politicians." "Do you really think so?" "That's right. The Fuxi Empire's emperor is a practical person. No matter what others say, he'll always listen, the president said. If we have his support, this matter will be much easier. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then nodded. That's fine. Impartial goddess will help me remember the time and place. Remind me when the time comes. Understood, sir. Impartial goddess replied. The president stood up and extended his hand. Thank you very much for your help. Gu Qingshan also stood up and shook the president's hand. It's my honor. The president sent Gu Qingshan out of the door, and the two of them chatted as they walked until they reached the small shuttle. After they left, one of the president's aides came into the office. This is the president's most loyal follower. Ever since before the election, he's always been by the president's side, taking care of various matters, earning him the title of President's Hand. Everyone trusts him. While staring at the door, he quickly took out a small glass bottle. The cork was roughly pulled open. The yellow liquid inside quickly melted into the president's cup of tea. Even after that, no one showed up. He breathed out in relief, fixed his collar, and went out with his hands in his pockets. An hour later, Gu Qingshan arrived at Zhang Yongho's place. This was a villa built on top of a mountain, a single door and courtyard, no other structures. The villa had all the necessary facilities, even a boxing ring. Zhang Yongho had already been notified by Impartial Goddess, waiting for him at the door. You're really something, leaving the man-killer fiend brothers to me, while happily running away by yourself, Zhang Yongho complained. I'm sorry, I had something more important to do at the time, Gu Qingshan smiled. Did you two get along well? If you ask me, Yi Feili is quite nice, but what's up with that bro who came later? Zhang Yongho pointed behind him. Gu Qingshan walked past him and looked into the room, only to see Liao Xing sitting on the sofa, holding a pipe in one hand and a bottle of beer in the other, his eyes glued to the projection screen on the wall. On the screen was a popular idol drama of the year. Ah, look at this chick, what a great body. I'll have to find a chance to warp her here, he muttered. Gu Qingshan patted Zhang Yongho's shoulder, saying, he's an old pervert, but he's a great researcher. You don't need to worry too much about him, all right, Zhang Yongho said. I helped you deal with the world's #1 man-killer fiend. You need to help me out as well. What is it? Gu Qingshan asked. I did something a few days ago, Zhang Yongho said. Speak. It's hard to say. Zhang Yongho suddenly became a bit shy. If you don't want to tell me, I'm leaving. Gu Qingshan walked towards a room. All right. I'll tell you. Zhang Yongho hurriedly pulled Gu Qingshan back and said, Itchem, you know my God's chosen skill, Black Cat. I know. It's very useful when it comes to finding things. Things haven't been going well lately, so my family's elders are worried about my personal life, urging me to find a partner. And then, I was bored, so I summoned Black Cat. Gu Qingshan was a bit surprised. You used Black Cat to find a partner? That's right. I was just bored and wanted to have some fun, but as soon as I said I was looking for a partner, Black Cat immediately ran out. So I had no choice but to follow it. If I didn't, it would get angry. So you follow Black Cat and found your dream lover? Gu Qingshan was even more surprised. Gu Qingshan organized her words a bit, then said, Listen, God's chosen skills are sometimes unreliable. You don't need to. Seeing the expression on Zhang Yongho's face, he slowly shut his mouth. Zhang Yongho was smiling. His eyes were misty, as if he was staring at a faraway place. I know her, but this is the first time I've seen her in person, he muttered in a low voice. Recalling the scene at the time, he cleared his throat. She's not really a dream lover. She's just fated to meet. Fated to meet, then go chase her. What does this have to do with me? Gu Qingshan was a bit confused. The problem is, this is a bit hard, Zhang Yongho sighed. With your Zhang family's power, there's nothing hard, Gu Qingshan said. It's because the Nine Lords don't really get along with her family's old man, and you have a good relationship with her old man. So I'm asking you to help. What do you want? Take me with you. Get to know her old man a bit. Change his impression of her first. Gu Qingshan smiled. You're thinking quite deeply. Who is it? The president's daughter. So that's why. Gu Qingshan thought for a bit, then said, That's perfect. I'll be attending an international conference soon. You can come with me. I'll introduce you to the president. All right. Zhang Yongho was overjoyed, patting Gu Qingshan's shoulder. You're a good brother. At this point, the door opened. The two of them turned to look, only to see Fei Li retracting his bone-spiked wings, landing on the ground. There were open wounds all over his body, but they've obviously been treated. No more blood flowed out. Impartial goddess voice came from the hollow brain. The Plague Man killer fiend has been killed by Yi Fei Li. Thank you, Gu Qingshan smiled and said. It's nothing. Killing it will help me evolve even faster. Not to mention impartial goddess comprehensive medical care. Saying so, Yi Fei Li's eyes were full of surprise, staring at Gu Qingshan. You've gotten stronger, he said. Chapter 237. Zhang Yongho looked at the faint bloody glow around Yi Fei Li's body and cut in. Our new partner. After becoming stronger, you wouldn't have any new ideas, would you? Don't worry, I'm very satisfied with my current lifestyle. Noticing his gaze, Yi Fei Li retracted the bloody glow and entered the room. The three of them each found a sofa and sat down. Yi Fei Li is our partner. Of course I'd welcome her. Zhang Yongho pointed at Liao Xing, asking, but do I really need to take in such trash? Liao Xing stopped watching TV and glared at him. What do you mean? What trash, when this great one dominated the Federation? Please pay attention to the confidentiality agreement. Impartial goddess voice suddenly came. Fine, fine, damn those nanobombs, Liao Xing begrudgingly said. It's fine, he's Liao Xing, the inventor of warp technology, Gu Qingshan introduced. Sir, impartial goddess spoke. It's fine. The two of them here don't have any intentions of leaking this information, Gu Qingshan said. Yi Fei Li doesn't understand what this name means at all. Zhang Yongho opened his eyes wide, staring at Liao Xing without saying anything. You're not dead. 30 years, that's impressive. He muttered. Liao Xing looked at Gu Qingshan and asked, Brat, you brought me back. What do we do now? Wait a minute. Gu Qingshan took out her hollow brain. Impartial goddess voice came from the hollow brain. Sir Gu Qingshan, the rainwater analysis report is out. There are no issues, no issues? That shouldn't be. He thought in surprise. After the man-killer fiends appeared, every time the demons infiltrated this world, it was through the rain. The rain carried the power of another world, falling into this world, seeping into every inch of the earth, finally gathering at the deepest point of the earth. The world was silently being changed by the rain. Only at a certain point would the rain stop. As soon as the rain stopped, changes would occur. There were all kinds of strange changes. It was to the extent that during the apocalypse, once people discovered that it was raining, they would immediately start a huge riot. Gu Qingshan was deep in thought. Since there was no obvious problem with the rain, it was not one of those situations. Suddenly, impartial goddess spoke up. Your Excellency, Gu Qingshan, just a second ago, the rain all over the world stopped in such a short time? Gu Qingshan was stunned for a moment before she understood. Oh no, this is the shortest rain in the 10 years of the apocalypse. It was that incomparably savage thing. Oh no, I can't stop it. Right at this moment, a voice suddenly sounded. Dear friends, the game of Eternal has officially begun. From the sound of it, this voice seemed to come from a stern old man. The strange thing was that the voice was neither loud nor soft, neither far nor near, as if it was ringing in everyone's heart. What is this? Liao Xing asked curiously. What the hell is this? It feels as though it is ringing directly in my heart. Zhang Yongho looked around nervously. Yi Fei Li squinted her eyes, seemingly trying to sense something, then spoke after a while. Directly affecting the heart, an extremely powerful ability. Gu Qingshan sighed and sat down on the sofa dejectedly. This filthy thing, so it really was that thing, he struggled to silently say in his mind. Facing such an eerie situation, everyone was stunned. Before they could think about it, the voice came again. Humans of this world, I am your friend. The apocalypse has come. Calamities and calamities are endless. Your fate is like an ant in a flood, insignificant and out of your control. Do you wish to change your fate? Struggle in the midst of battle, advance in the midst of slaughter. Only the strong can survive. Gu Qingshan hit the table with all his might, causing it to collapse. Damn it, he roared in a low voice. This was an infamous game. During the apocalypse, Because of this game, the entire human civilization lost 60% of its population. It had only used 10 days to make the entire human world go crazy and fall into its enemy's hands. What exactly is going on? Jang Young-ho asked with a serious expression. Gu Qing-shan looked at the three of them and spoke seriously. No matter what, you cannot choose yes. Do you hear me? As soon as he said so, the voice came again. If you are a brave warrior, then challenge it. Once you succeed, you shall obtain great power, or even eternal life. The first game of Eternal, now accepting applications. As soon as he said so, a large line of text appeared in front of the four of them. Do you wish to obtain eternal life? To become an undying existence? Yes/no. This line of text silently floated in the air, as if waiting, but also as an invitation. This scene appeared in every corner of the planet where there were humans. Gu Qing-shan sighed with a defeated expression. That's right, the only thing that can make humans crazily chase after everything else is eternal life. Gu Qing-shan suddenly raised his voice, shouting, Listen up, choose no, whoever chooses yes. Don't blame me for turning against you right away. The three of them looked at him, then at each other. Jang Young-ho and Yi Fei-li both chose no at the same time. Liao Xing looked at their choices, hesitated for a bit, then also chose no. What exactly is going on? Jang Young-ho finally asked. I don't feel too good. Let's keep watching, Gu Qing-shan slowly said. Jang Young-ho nodded and didn't ask anything else. Premonition is a very hard thing to say. A normal person's premonition isn't much, but powerful professionists are often able to see through the cracks of fate, so, as long as there's a premonition, it's usually pretty accurate. The old man's voice came again. The first batch of people who wish to become eternal has been chosen. A total of 17,961 people will be randomly selected from this world. After an intense battle, we shall choose the final winner. The winner shall obtain the right to eternal life. All spectators, close your eyes, and you will be able to watch this survival challenge. And now, the exciting survival challenge shall begin. Everyone couldn't help but close their eyes. A scene silently appeared in front of everyone's eyes. It was an ancient Colosseum. The Colosseum was originally silent, but suddenly, over 10,000 people appeared on the stone arena. They were all standing together, but they only took up 1/3 of the arena. Below the arena was a bottomless abyss. There was no one in the seats of the Colosseum. So it's real. What's going on? Did I really enter the survival challenge? I just randomly chose. Wow, that's really cool. Strange. I can't leave after coming in. Can I really obtain eternal life? I want to go back. That's scary. There's a ghost. Everyone was talking at once. A few of them were scared, but a lot of them were excited, feeling like this was a new experience. After all, the apocalypse is already here. The world is no longer the same as it was before. Every country's government is constantly giving warnings about where the sea beasts will land. The news often shows images of sea beasts that are dozens of stories tall. There are also man-eater fiends and man-killer fiends that openly appear in front of everyone, fighting against mechs and professionists. It's not like people can't accept something even stranger happening at a time like this. On the arena, there were police officers, doctors, hoodlums, housewives, students, professionists, a total of almost 18,000 people of all shapes and sizes. Everyone stood there, getting to know each other, exchanging their opinions, waiting for the next change. The old voice came again. The rules of the game: survive to the end, become the only king. As soon as this was said, quite a few people fell into thought. Even more people's expressions changed. What do you mean? Are you saying that only one person can survive? Someone shouted. The old voice didn't answer and continued. The duration of the game is 1 hour. I hope everyone has a good time. Now, the survival challenge begins. The old voice disappeared. Some of the smarter ones quickly left the crowd and ran away. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.